Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel, everyone. Great to have everybody here. Tonight, part 2 in our ongoing series of interviews and investigative reports into the Universal Ostrich Farm out in Edgewood, British Columbia, trying to present balance and a fuller picture that will help everyone get closer to the truth with regard to that story out there. That crazy ostrich story that just will not go away. So we'll get into that. We have a special guest lined up, David A. Lott. I'll let him kind of explain how he is involved with all of this. But I think he has been sort of an integral person, an integral player in the background, somebody that people maybe are not aware of. And also our guest journalist, Angie Clowry, will be back tonight, because she has been doing a lot of digging and background work into this over the past number of months. And so she's well-versed, and it's great to have her here with her background information. Now, also, before we get started tonight, because we're going to be focusing so much on this ostrich story again, I would be not serving you well if I didn't at least mention today's other top news stories, because of course, this ICE shooting in Minneapolis continues to make headlines. And tonight, America, I think maybe even much of the Western world, is divided severely, even more divided than it was before, if that was possible, because of this shooting in Minneapolis. So I at least want to make mention of it. Over on our X account, I did post video of the incident, which is available elsewhere as well, but I posted it there because it is really going viral, but it is also an important piece of evidence. And if you want to get closer to the truth, you'll be able to go there and see the video evidence for yourself and then make your own assessment, as all of these social media influencers on all sides of the political spectrum are weighing in on this, and I have not personally injected any editorial comment on it. For now, I'm just leaving it to you guys to assess for yourselves. Also, the world is more destabilized than ever, because we are seeing this rhetoric about Greenland amped up. A lot of concern there. There are reports that Greenland has left orders with its military to shoot first, ask questions later. That's what's circulating on social media, and it seems to be credible information, and it really relates to old military policy dating back all the way to the 1950s. So if anybody invades, even the United States, it looks like shots would come first, questions later, and hopefully it doesn't come to that. Mike Pence, Trump's former vice president, weighing in on this today. When asked about it on CNN, he said, military in Denmark, U.S. military in Denmark? No, because they're a NATO ally. But then he followed that up by saying that he personally still supports the idea of purchasing Denmark and pursuing the acquisition of that landmass in that way. So all of that is going on. And also there seems to be some sort of a warning coming from Russia that they may launch Oreshnik missiles into Ukraine tonight. So we have an eye on that one as well. Don't know how credible it is, but it's out there. It's out there. And hopefully that doesn't happen either, because we don't want to see innocent people hurt. So stay with me. We have a lot to unpack tonight. And when we come back on the other side, we'll have our special guest journalist back for night 2 and tonight's guest of honor. So don't go away.
Maverick News isn't just a news outlet, it's a community of truth seekers. Your donation at freedomreporters.com fuels our mission to report the stories that mainstream media won't touch. Thank you, Maverick family.
All right, we're back. Let's first bring in Angie. Welcome back.
Thank you.
All the way from British Columbia, and our special guest tonight, David Alott. Am I pronouncing that correctly, David?
Yeah, you're doing just fine.
Okay. So people met Angie last night for the first time here on Maverick News, a longtime journalist and trying to build up her own social media platforms like so many of us, and doing that through the use of her, or the practice of her craft, journalism. And David, I'm curious to know, why did you even want to do this interview tonight? Because so many people want this ostrich story to just kind of go away, me included, but it's like I can't get away from it. It just keeps coming back, resurfacing.
Like a bad flu.
Yes, it is. So what's your objective here tonight, or do you even have one? Are you just here because Angie said, "Hey, why don't you come on Maverick News with me?"
Angie's pretty compelling. I'd hire her in sales immediately for her tenacity.
Well, she has experience
We'll
there.
talk about that after. Thank you.
Yeah. No, and I just want to clear a couple things up.
Sure.
You said a couple things there that I was like an integral part. I mean, I've never been to the ostrich farm.
Yeah.
Never met the owners in person or anything like that. I think saying I was an integral part is a bit
You're
of a
deflating my big intro.
well, I mean, I don't mean to, I don't mean to
Take the
burst
wind
your
out of my
bubble, but
sails. No, that's okay. Accuracy
if
is
you
important.
want, if you want to make an omelet, you got to break a couple eggs, So, yeah. So, I mean, look, I think my the value I can kind of add here is I'm definitely removed. I didn't experience any of the on-site drama. I'm sure somebody is going to write a mini series, a screenplay about this thing. I mean, this story got more international coverage than probably like 80% of all the wars, taking place on the planet, right? And so whenever you take an animal or a pet and you attach certain words and feelings to it, I mean, it's an emotional thing, right? I mean, lack of a better word, the media was really infected by this and really polarized by this. I think one of the themes that kind of comes to mind when I think about the situation is, you've probably heard something similar to, justice for thee, but not for me, right? And what I found was a lot of the people who were really sort of bashing the farm, for breaking the law or doing things like, you know, doing whatever, going against the government, are going to be the same people that would, argue that illegal aliens should be allowed to stay in the country even though it's breaking the law. So it's like, which laws actually apply logically? Everyone's kind of fickle. I find as a Canadian, we always try to run the middle of the road. We try to not be biased. We try to look into the facts. Um, at one point, we had a lot of respect for journalists, and now it seems like the majority of the media has kind of gone to the wayside in favor of independent, people like yourself, right? And a lot of distrust in the media, and there really wasn't any positive media coverage of the farm, right? It was a big spectacle, as you say. So I think a good use of our time here would be, I can answer questions about birds, and I don't have, like I said, that kind of on-site emotional attachment to the situation. I'm really just kind of someone from the outside who saw a lot of suffering, whether it was mental health out there. A lot of mental health issues were brought, that existed before the farm was a thing. And A lot of mental health issues were created at the farm, for what people were going through. Whether the psychological trauma was, whether it was imposed by outside forces or self-imposed, the reality is that um, this wasn't a story that lifted people up. This was a story that, people would go to bed at night and feel bad about it. So I would love to kind of just pull back the veil, um, skip the emotional, uh, you know, rhetoric, and just kind of get into facts. And really, the best thing would be to put the story to bed tonight. That would be an ideal situation for me, would be to be able to put this to bed and say, you know what, we've beaten this thing to death, you know, and anybody who's kind of buried their head in the sand over this whole thing and just ignored it. That you, I mean, I'm not saying I'm the person to put it to bed, but I think between the three of us, we could have a pretty intellectual discussion. So that's kind of my angle on this thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I have to go here right away. I know you don't really want to, but it is for the purposes of transparency and perspective, and it is why I opened the program the way that I did. It's because, and the cat is out of the bag, as you indicated in the private conversation coming in here. People know that you donated to the farm. And so I think that's an important aspect to this, because you felt compelled to do it, or you felt strongly enough, for some reason, that you actually donated a substantial sum of money to the farm. And I think Angie tonight might even be able to, add additional perspective and maybe information on that front that maybe even you're not aware of. I'm not sure about that, but I think she'd like to share some additional information about it as well. Not that I want to, really focus just on that, but for purposes of transparency and so people know where we're all coming from, that is the case. So, do you want to talk a little bit about that and how you became sort of engaged with the story and why you became so passionate or interested in it? Maybe that's a better word.
Yeah, well, I think a good question to ask is, why wouldn't I donate it to a chicken farm,
Right. Sure.
right? So why ostriches? So not a lot of people know this, but ostriches aren't poultry. It's red meat. The species, emus and things like that, they're
Well,
cooked right up.
actually, David, it is poultry. It's classified as poultry,
Yeah, we
by
we can
by
we can go back
governments,
and forth on that.
across the board internationally. So you can say that, but it is poultry.
I mean,
And that's
if
that
you can
is
pull it up, if
that
you
is
can pull up
that
the
is a piece of
classification.
propaganda that was coming out of the farm, because they were trying to make people think that it wasn't livestock, because they were trying to personify those birds and make people feel for them like they were pets. They're saying they're not poultry, they're not livestock. We don't, and that was also wrapped around, wrapped around that was the lie that they were telling people, where we don't sell these for food, and they certainly did for a long time. So,
Yeah, years ago.
you can, I'll leave it there, and you can
Yeah.
take that position if you want. But the truth is, if all you have to do is punch it into Google, and it comes back and it tells you that they are poultry.
Yeah, I mean, classification wise, I get it. It's nature will tell you that they behave different from poultry. Um, it's a different species, you know. And we can go back and forth and talk about whether or not it's poultry or not. But kind of to get back to sort of the point
Yeah, but when I
of
see
why not
people out at the
chickens?
farm chanting ostriches are not poultry, and then they're using it like some, I don't know, cultish
Mm.
mind control thing and making
Mm.
videos of it. There's a political reason behind doing that. So
Yeah,
I
and I,
have to
I
push
can,
back a little bit on it, because they used that as a propaganda tool.
yeah, I can see where you're coming from, right? I mean, truth matters, but I
Mhm.
don't think it's entirely accurate. And I'll just kind of close that part off. I don't think it's entirely accurate to say, that these birds are big chickens, right? Or that they're big
Nobody said,
turkeys.
I don't think anybody said that.
Well, I think when we say they are poultry, that kind of, some people might take
But I'm
that
not saying a turkey is
as
a
that they're
chicken either. Turkeys are not
right,
chickens.
right. I think what I'm trying to
Emus are not ostriches.
what I'm trying to say is that it's not entirely uh honest to say that these are poultry, in that people would look at that and say it has the same risk as uh, a chicken, or that it has the same, that it's like a one-to-one comparison. I think that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. But to sort of go back to my first sort of question, why wouldn't I do something like this for chickens? Why ostriches? And for me, and I mean, this is my personal opinion, this is just, my experience, actually working on an ostrich farm. I'm talking, this is probably 15, 20 years ago, um, maybe longer, that was working with the CFIA. I mean, the ostrich farm that I was working for was actively doing very similar research, on antibodies and things like that for the CFIA. And so when I heard that the birds got sick and that, several dozen of them died, but that months had gone by and the birds were no longer showing symptoms, they could be shedding virus and you wouldn't know, but the fact would remain that they would have IgY antibodies, which, if you know what an IgY antibody is, you can get them from chickens, but you can get a lot more from ostrich eggs. And so the value, in my view, of studying those antibodies was a pretty big deal. It was something that I was like, seems kind of strange that we're not like super interested in this. And I mean, when you've got a guy like, Mehmet Oz, who is really two people away from being from the president, who handles a $1.5 trillion budget, for the United States, who has more consultants than, than you could imagine. If he's willing to put his name on something like that, we're either calling the guy a total idiot, or
Some people do.
Yeah, I
Some
mean, you
people call
can,
him a
but I mean,
quack, actually. So he
yeah,
might be
you
right at
can.
home at an ostrich farm.
You can, but I mean, for him to be in position of a $1.5
What the
trillion
hell is
dollar
what the hell
budget.
is an official from the Trump administration
Mhm.
poking his nose into the business of the Canadian a Canadian issue on Canadian soil in the middle of freaking nowhere in BC?
Because it
What's his
mattered to him.
Yeah,
Because
because he saw
he saw the scientific
the
value in these
propaganda,
birds.
or maybe he was involved in
Mhm.
it somehow. Certainly they became involved with it
Well,
in a
what did
very
he have to
public way.
gain?
What's
I don't
that?
mean to cut you off. What did he have to gain? What was in it for him?
Oh, I
Why
think
would
that
he put
Worldwide
his name
media
on it?
exposure. He's a
yeah.
marketer. He's a
I mean, it's
literal marketer that had a television show for decades. I believe it was a marketing tactic, a PR tactic that the Trump administration is absolutely fabulous for. You can hate Trump all you want, but I don't know anyone that can say one thing that gets internationally immediate coverage. And so then Oz and Kennedy all jumped on that and instantly were well known. If you
so
wanted people to give you money or work for you, and wouldn't you hop on that?
what you're saying is that an American, an American politician, essentially, American bureaucrat, had somehow would somehow gain, political support for supporting a, an issue happening in a different country, where they would gain no votes, no support. If anything, they
Where
probably
they
would have
have no
lost.
business at all to begin with.
Right. So why do it? That's my question, is, so why do it? I mean, again, we're either
I
calling the
don't
guy
know.
a
Maybe it's
total.
because the president was talking about making Canada the 51st state. Maybe it's because the guy who's also promoting this through his radio station, this billionaire out in New York, is
Yeah.
is the largest purchaser of Alberta oil. Maybe it's because he also owns a giant grocery store chain that buys a lot of poultry. Maybe it's because RFK Jr. has been against culling animals, and he just wants to let the disease rip. He just wants to let it go. He's on record saying that. Maybe it's because it's entirely political. Maybe it's because of the way they did it to gain some sort of political leverage, to discredit and destabilize the Canadian government, and to gut a government institution, a government agency like the CFIA, so that the Canadian government looks cruel and awful and horrific, and and maybe that's why they're still making videos about it tonight on other social media platforms and other influencers, trying to portray the Canadian government as freaking evil because they want to make us the 51st state. I see a lot of reasons why, and I see that the way they did it, the way that Dr. Oz and RFK Jr. intervened, was entirely inappropriate and not customary. And I can comment on that more because, and it's important because of the way they did it.
I don't think you can say much about the Trump administration as customary. You know what's not customary is
yeah, well, that's kind of a problem too.
Well, I mean, here's a problem. I mean, we're going to go back to ostriches real quick. Trump just hacked $18 billion off of Blackstone stock today because corporations aren't going to be allowed to buy single family homes anymore. I don't know if you've heard that news, but Trump just came out, so that's definitely not customary for our politicians to be actually looking out for the little guy in that respect. So
you mean like the way that he launched the Trump meme coin and pumped it up to $75 and had people buying that stuff and then did his little pump and dump and is $1 billion richer himself? Is that helping the little guy? All the people out there who bought the Trump meme coin and now hold these coins at $4.90.
I mean, we don't know who bought the meme coins, though, right? We can't assume. See, here's the thing, right? The difference between a thought-provoking idea and a conspiracy is that you have evidence of some kind to back a conspiracy, right?
Oh, there's lots of evidence. I don't think you have to go very far to find people who will tell you they bought the Trump meme coin. And I think if you look at the demographics of the MAGA base, you can pretty much figure out who's buying the Trump meme coins.
I mean, you can speculate all you want, but I think on terms of the ostriches, there's a lot of
numbers don't lie.
Well, I mean, we can talk about the Trump meme coin. We can talk about the ostriches. The ostriches, as far as it goes with, with thought-provoking ideas, there's a lot out there, and there's a lot out there in favor of the ostriches, and there's a lot out there against the owners of the farm. But it really boils down to, I really have a few questions that I feel like people ask and they don't understand the answer to. So the first question that comes up is, why weren't they allowed to test the birds? People don't really understand this. They feel like it was like a bully tactic, that they weren't allowed to test the birds because the government wouldn't let them. Well, the reality is the law wouldn't have backed it up. So the law says that, hey, you can test these birds, but it's only going to tell you what's happening right now. Like, if you can't detect the virus now, that doesn't mean they don't have it. So people didn't understand that that's why there was, a barrier there from them being allowed to test their own ostriches, was because that would not have proven either way if the birds were shedding the virus or not in that moment. A negative would not say, oh, the birds are healthy. Like, people don't understand that. So I think it's important for everybody on the bird side of the fence to understand that part, that it wasn't just the government trying to, put their thumb down and crush the farm. It was legally and procedurally and factually, if you test the birds and they come back negative, might make for great PR. Hey, the birds aren't sick. But in reality, you don't know. You really don't know until someone else or a human or someone gets sick. So I think we need to clear that up, because that's a kind of a unknown sort of rhetoric thing. I think the other thing that needs to be cleared up, just going back to Dr. Oz really quick, a lot of people feel like that they held on to the birds and didn't send them down there because, they didn't want to, like, they wanted to keep them in Canada. I mean, that's not entirely accurate. It was made really clear that the government was not going to allow those birds across the border, and that it was, they would have to, how do you smuggle an ostrich, right? So, I'm
not sure that the U.S. government would have let them across the border, honestly.
Yeah, but
or certain, I don't know if certain states would have allowed them across state borders after everything that they've been subjected to and infected with.
Yeah, they wouldn't have made it. They wouldn't have made it out of Kelowna. I mean, that.
So you can't just blame the Canadian government.
Oh,
I think there are multiple layers of government that would have stood in the way of that.
I'm just saying that like legally the government would have been obligated to prevent it from going anywhere.
Yeah, and I think
So
that's also why Dr. Oz, I think, was playing politics and PR, because I don't think his offer was genuine at all. I think it was very disingenuous, frankly. But it was a great
well, I
PR
don't think
stunt.
yeah, I think that what happens is Americans can you know, I'm not saying hubris, but I mean, you know, definitely have a habit of, like you say, shoot first, ask questions later earlier, right? So and you know,
Those
as an
Danish,
American,
those Danish
well,
Greenlanders.
yeah. Well, I mean, as an American and someone who's lived in the United States for, you know, close to a decade. Actually, it's been more than a decade now. I've moved back. I've lived in, you know, states for a bit. I moved back to BC. I moved back to the States. I've really kind of had that perspective, you know, the cross-border perspective. And
Mhm.
actually, I moved in 2015, which was really kind of 2015 was kind of a tipping point in politics where rather than Canada kind of being this middle of the road, you know, people vote one way, they vote another way. We really did get really divided. And I think that the ostrich issue really kind of amplified almost like a microcosm of the situation that was happening in the States. You know, it was a polarizing issue, it was a touchy-feely issue. And you know, my involvement, you know, I wanted to see the birds studied. Like I understood scientific value with the birds. Some people might push it off or argue with the science of it. But the reality is there was a market for what that research was doing.
What
And
research? What research are you talking about?
yeah, so I actually am not 100%, oh, I wouldn't say, I mean, 50% knowledgeable on what they were doing in terms of their research. I
They
can tell
weren't
you that
doing any bird flu research.
not bird flu, it was COVID.
Oh,
It
yeah.
wasn't.
So what the hell
Yeah,
does COVID have to do with the bird flu?
it's a great question. So
So everybody wants to
the
save the ostriches because they have to
yeah,
study the bird flu antibodies, but they weren't
yeah.
doing any bird flu studies out there.
Yeah. No, it wasn't necessarily that the ostriches were like a bird flu cure or anything to do with that. The reality is that the eggs of these birds contain so much material that allows, like, I think it's something like 20 eggs, like 20 chicken eggs or something to one ostrich egg.
Mhm.
There's just so much material. You could call them like substrate, or you could call it, you know, feedstock, or, you know, raw materials to do scientific biomedical research with these eggs. Whether they were being used for COVID or not, if the birds were healthy, 400 birds can produce a ton of material, you know, that can be used in biomedical research. But what I was getting at here was that I would have liked to have seen the birds either, like, I don't know, put them in a building, quarantine, like something, like do something responsible with them, you know, do something. And my involvement with the farm, I wasn't involved with the farm, like in terms of anything that they were doing from the business side. What I saw was a bunch of Canadians who were leaving their stuff behind, a bunch of media content creators capitalizing on an opportunity for PR. And I wanted to help the people that were truly leaving things behind, because you know, the content people are making money, the, you know, there's money to be made in online content. But what I saw was families, volunteers, and people kind of putting themselves behind something that they truly believed in.
Mm.
And I just saw people were hungry and they weren't eating well. And you know, mental health is a big important topic for me, and feeding people. I work in the food waste business, so
Mhm.
you know, feeding people is really important to me. And so I was really committed to see people fed. I think when people sit down and eat and break bread, it gives us an opportunity to have conversations and dialogue.
Sure.
And I think that's really what was missing from that whole piece there was, hey, let's all get together and get really angry and get really mad about something. But until people are fed, I mean, you know what it's like to be hungry, right? And good luck having a good conversation when you're hangry.
I
That
don't know.
was
My
really my
mom
day.
insists on feeding me constantly.
Yeah, right. You still live with your mom?
I'm
Just kidding.
I
Just
do this week.
that's good. Yeah. So really what my goal was to kind of calm things down and not being
Mhm.
there. I can't exactly be a mediator, but food brings people together and it calms people down. And I think for the most part, if people weren't being fed, you probably would have seen more violence. You probably would have seen more anger and hate towards the police and just unnecessary things. So that was as far as my extent involvement with the farm. I was just
Okay,
trying
but
to
but
make
but
sure people were
but I
fed.
mean, again, for transparency, you didn't donate some small amount. There was a
I mean,
substantial
I mean
sum of
it.
money.
I mean it's no. I mean it's representative, right? I mean you got thousands of people that came out to the farm, right? Not all at once
Thousands? I don't know
necessarily.
if I don't
Not
think it was thousands. Angie, was it
not all at
thousand?
once. Not all at once. But I
Over
think over
time,
the
for sure it was.
yeah, I think over
Okay.
time for sure it was. And
Well,
yeah.
David, $30,000 is not a small amount.
I mean, I'm not saying it was a small amount, and I'm not saying it was $30,000 either. I'm not sure who's telling you that was the amount, but
Mhm.
I mean, at the end of the
So you're
day,
saying it wasn't $30,000?
yeah, I'm saying it wasn't $30,000.
Okay. How much can you tell us? You want to tell us how much?
No, not really. Yeah,
Okay.
I think
But it
that's
was
my business.
substantial
I mean, it was
because
enough to feed. It was enough to feed people for you know a meal here and there, and yeah. No, I mean, it was enough that I think it had a positive effect. I think it lowered tensions. I think if you had a bunch of hungry people out there eating toast and cereal, you would have had much more confrontations with the police. You would have had much more anger, and you would have had people fighting more. I mean, people were infighting there all the time. I mean, throw a bunch of people together without any real leadership and see what happens, right?
yeah, I know I keep seeing it over and over again, not just here, but the same people sort of showing up at
Yeah,
the protest of the season.
yeah,
Because this wasn't the
exactly.
first time we've seen these folks.
Yeah, you want to calm down a protest? Show up with a barbecue and 500 pounds of meat, and I bet you're gonna have a much, more veggies.
Mhm.
I'm sure not all of them eat meat at this point. Those protesters, you got to have some
Yeah,
vegans in there somewhere. But I mean, that's the deal, right? I mean, you can show up
yeah.
with batons and pepper balls, or you show up with a barbecue, sit down, have a conversation, see what happens.
So, Dave, do you
You
mind
know,
me asking, is that the reason why you did that? You saw a lot of people there and you thought it was emotionally, like mental health
I
wise.
saw I saw pain. I saw pain and I saw suffering. And I don't care if
Mhm.
you're my deepest enemy. I don't care if you've slandered me online. Um, that's not that's not my guiding principle in life. Treat others as you'd want to be treated. And I just saw a lot of pain and suffering and mental
Mhm.
health, and I saw violence and I saw anger. And what I saw was a lack of food. I just saw a lack of food, and I thought, you know what? Put some food in some people's bellies, get people together to cook. People start cooking together, they start talking. And it's not necessarily even about opposing sides, right? I mean, you don't have to get the opposing sides together. Sometimes it's like, hey, let's calm down a minute and we can talk. And maybe we talk up to each other about the same thing. And instead of fueling the fire, we got a chance to kind of think about what we value in life. And I think what a lot of people valued at that farm was independence of government overreach. I think in Canada, a big difference between Canada and the US is Canada gets its nose in its people's business in a much different way than the United States does. In Canada, what I find in Canada is you have more people rooting for your failure, or more people trying to shoot down your ideas, or discourage you from stepping out of the box. Whereas in America, I feel like it's the opposite. I mean, I did business in Canada for many, many, many years. And the amount of times that I had doors closed in my face only to come back, like Angie, 6, 7, 8 times or whatever it is, to try again to finally have that door opened. Whereas, doing business in America, it was like the door was open for me before I even walked in, and people are interested in who you are and what you do. If you look at like Vancouver Island, as an example, compared to Edgewood, BC, right? The culture or not, sorry, not Edgewood. Sorry, I mean like Chilliwack, mainland. The culture is so different from the capital city. It really almost feels like the Hunger Games in a political way. The people on Vancouver Island in the capital are so insulated in a bubble. I could never imagine somebody in Kelowna or in Edgewood that's kind of, doesn't have a boss to worry about getting fired from. Anybody who had the wherewithal to help that farm and feed people and actually try to meaningfully de-escalate a situation, um, I could never see anyone else doing it. And so that's kind of why I stepped up is, I just felt, this is within my means, and I could never go there and convince people to change their belief system. So put some food in their bellies and try to de-escalate, emotions and tensions that are biologically driven. And that's where my focus was. I think it's a real.
Hang on, he jumped off there for a second.
Oh, I'm
Please-
here.
Yeah, there you
Sorry,
are.
I'm here.
I've got you.
Oh, sorry. I was just
Something
saying,
weird
I think it's a real shame that we talk about the ostrich farm in terms of a political strategy or a divisive topic in terms of like who was right and who was wrong. I think it's really important that we recognize that the same people who participated in the convoy participated in the ostrich farm, very similar groups. And what that group of people want is they want something different than what the mainstream wants. The mainstream doesn't want to make a mess, doesn't want to, step out of line, wants the status quo. And so the ostriches just became the next thing for that group to rely on. Now, I personally, I wasn't here for the convoy. I didn't even know the convoy even happened. I was so, until like a month after kind of thing, because I was so buried in work in the States. Um, but what I recognized is that people were getting tired of not having their voice heard. And so whatever the political, trouble, whatever the, ostrich farm, freedom convoy, people wanted to get involved, and they were willing to leave their lives behind, get fired from their jobs,
if they had a job.
well, I mean, yeah, come on.
No, come
uh,
on. Yeah, a lot of homeless people go to these things, and that was the case out there too.
I mean, a lot of homeless people go to the ICE protests too. I mean, whether they're homeless or not, it doesn't
I know who the people are.
doesn't minimize their, doesn't minimize their will, right?
No,
So
that doesn't minimize their will, but it certainly puts their need into perspective.
what I'm trying to get across here is that it's a real shame that rather than just looking at this as an opportunity, to do some community building, to do some actual problem solving, that it just came down to what I call Canadian sticklerism, right? So the political situation in Canada, it's sticklerism. It's like, oh, you could do this, but there's a little bit of a risk here, so we're going to protect everyone and force this will of, if something bad could happen to one person, that's too many. And I think that's a big difference between Canadians and Americans, is that Americans live with risk all day. I mean, I'm in I'm in Houston right now. I don't know if I should be saying that, but there's a serial killer on the loose, killed like 30 bodies are being pulled out of the bay. We all live with risk here, but it seems like Canadians are so intolerant of risk. And I don't mean all Canadians, I just kind of mean like mainstream, maybe the older crowd are so intolerant of risk that they're willing to just kind of put the blinders on, and instead of sit down and have an intellectual, scientifically based conversation where you can present your arguments and I can present my arguments at a table, it's just like it feels like there's no will to do that anymore, and
And
I
so
think
you
that's a
think
real I
that's
think
what
it's a
these
real shame.
protesters were doing out at the farm, was
No, the
trying to
protesters
present?
were whipped. No, the protesters were whipped into a frenzy. They were
Right.
whipped into a frenzy because there was not that forum created where there could be an honest dialogue, where the representatives of the farm could have met with the representatives of the CFIA publicly, where there could be an open dialogue, an open debate. There was no debate. I did not see a single debate on this issue, and it had international attention. I didn't see one legitimate debate between one side and the other, between the authority on the CFIA and the authority on, the science and the ostrich farm. That was a crying shame. I mean, how are we supposed to solve any problems if we can't have the authorities on the subject sit down and have a dialogue? How
I
ridiculous
think
is
that's an absolutely fabulous idea, but the point that it got to like late summer with having, in my opinion, an angry mob supporting the farm. Like I have an email from the CFIA saying no one can contact, because I was having my own interviews, having these conversations. No one can come on because they're getting death threats and they are getting doxxed. RCMP members, their children were being bothered at school. So I totally hear what you're saying, but the fact that the mob mentality, the tribal unity was going after people, that's just not fair. And also, you said it absolutely right. The transparency and the truth has not come out from one side.
I don't know about that. I mean, I think that people have really dug their heels in, and that a lot has been said. I mean, transparency is the enemy of fraud, right? At the end of the day, right? So I think if there's documents missing, if there's reports missing, um, that the people in support of the farm deserve to have access to that. My understanding is, and again, I've never been there, never, read anything on paper, just what I've seen digitally. My understanding is the farm claims to have been extremely transparent and made everything available. So if they haven't, I would like to know what kind of things we need to see, to raise that transparency. That would be something that I would raise, immediately. Like, why hasn't XYZ been released? Why hasn't a certain documents be released? I would like to know what those documents are, because I don't know what's missing. I'll be honest, dude. All I did was feed a bunch of people that,
Mhm.
were suffering mentally and physically out there. And I don't know what documents people are looking for. But if there are documents missing, then I believe anyone and everyone who has read this story or, been involved in it would deserve to know, right?
You could
And I
start
think
with
that was,
start with documents showing how many birds were supposed to be on the farm, because even the farm operators couldn't tell us, and they kept making up different numbers.
I
Seems to me
mean,
if you're running a proper farm, you would know how much inventory you have. And if you're running some sort of a valid scientific research facility, you would be very meticulous about the records you keep,
so
knowing how many birds are alive, how many have died, why they've died,
yeah.
when they died.
Who the
And there's
actual
there's
owners
none of
of the
that.
said birds are, who the owners of the birds are. There's not a stick of research in any three of the court documents. So it went through all levels of our court system here in British Columbia. And the only time someone has been held accountable by the farm is actually with Rick having a conversation. And the spokesperson got up and left it ended up being, I think, a 7.5 hour long interview. So I totally hear what you're saying,
Go
but
talk to
there's
any rancher. Go talk to any rancher that raises cattle and ask him exactly how many head of cattle he has. He'll
so
never
I
be able to.
did. I
He'll
did.
never
And
be
you
able
know
to.
what my friend told me? He said, it's none of your business, because that's like asking me how much money's in the bank. I've had
Mhm.
two. Where I live in Kelowna, and I
Yeah,
have three of the largest operators of cattle ranches.
yeah,
One is a former family farm, the other
right.
is a businessman, and the other I used to play hockey with. And
Well,
so they do know how much cattle they have.
I mean, I'll
It's
be honest with you.
somewhere
They
between
don't. They don't.
280 and 400, give or take.
That's a pretty big margin. I wouldn't
Yeah,
be
that's a
super
pretty big
satisfied with that.
margin, and that's
I
where
wouldn't
they're
be.
at. That's where they were
Yeah,
at.
I wouldn't be satisfied with that. My understanding is they've openly. I've never seen the 280 mark. I've only ever seen the 400 mark. The around,
So
given
the
a ballpark, plus
CFIA
or minus 5%
The
mark.
CFIA said they unalived 314, I believe is the number, 314. I'll have people confirm that in a
Okay.
second here. They were
Okay.
telling us there were 400. The issue is, before this, reports have throughout the valley that birds were unaliving. They were dying from this virus, and they were putting them in the incinerator and getting rid of them. So we don't know how many. And the issue is because of the way they did business in what's called a satellite farm, they would sell pairs of the birds to other farmers who would raise them and then hopefully make $150,000 a year by raising these birds. They would bring them back when they're yearlings, pay them $3.50 a pound, and then they were supposed to butcher the birds and slaughter them the halal way at that time. And that's the business part of this, right? So, and the issue is all of the young birds weren't their birds, allegedly. They were other satellite farms. So it's not just one piece. There's so many pockets of this. So we don't know how many birds there were.
So the question is, why do all these little minutia details matter? I mean, it's kind of ironic that we talk about sticking our nose, or America sticking their nose in our business, and here we are sticking our nose in their business. Why does
actually they made this very public. They turned this into a public spectacle. So it was and I didn't want to do the story. I didn't want to stick my nose into it at all. I tried to avoid it, but people kept coming to me insisting that I go out there or that I start to cover this story, because Dave, what they really wanted me to do was pick up the narrative and just start regurgitating what everybody else was saying and just fall into line. But I just started talking to people. The first thing I did was phone the farm, and I got Karen on the phone, and she was quite candid with me, maybe too candid, because she started to answer my questions in an interview, and she was quite open about it, about the research, about selling the birds for food and all the background on the farm. And she was very forthcoming. But that was in the very early stages of this. And then sees a lot of that information didn't fit the narrative that the propagandists who came out there to exploit this situation wanted to put out to the public. It didn't fit. So they started to change the story. And then my radar went up and I went, what the hell's going on out there? And me being like a real journalist all my life, working in various forms of media all my life. It's all I've ever done. I'm like, wait a minute, there's more going on here than meets the eye. So I started to ask more questions and dig. And so the minutia and the details absolutely freaking matter a lot. So because there's a shitload of money on the line, and it goes beyond just the money. It's about government grants and politics. And this whole thing was a political thing. It was hijacked for political purposes. So absolutely, that's what it's about.
So if that's what matters is the spectacleization. I don't even know if that's a word.
I like it though. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to steal it.
I don't know. So if what matters is that on one side we've got an issue of spectacleization, and then going into integrity and transparency, and that, hey, this was just a money grab and it was a big blown up thing. If that's on one side of the argument, on the other side of the argument is that the ostrich farm and the Freedom Convoy showed how little our voices matter. I think it was Margaret Mead or someone said, never ever discount what a small group of people can do to make change. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Well, that's absolute caca at this point. It doesn't matter how many signatures you get. It doesn't matter how much money you raise. If the government of Canada wants to do something, by golly, they are gonna do it. And I think that's really what the opposite side of this whole thing is that, hey, we can go on one side of this situation and say, look, this was a money grab, how disingenuous, the facts matter, stickler on one side. And then on the other side, we can go and look at it and say, hey, look, this was really I don't know what the right word is, a theme, or this was really like an example of how little it matters when a community of people get together and rally behind something to the government.
So hold on, you just said something that's absolutely inaccurate. You said a community gets behind. So let me tell you about the community. The community is not behind this farm. There's 335 people in this community. There's less than 20 in that community that support this farm. So that's where my heart lies. That's where my loyalty lies, is my friends and family live in Edgewood. I have a summer lake camping spot there. Parts of my family still live there. Part of my family are from there. And so when you say the community, this is the big
We're talking about two different communities.
Right.
You're
But
talking about the local
what I'm trying to
community, and
share
I'm
with
talking
you,
about the community that rallied behind the farm.
I
You mean
get
the
that, but
political movement?
can you imagine having thousands of people there and the 355 actual locals, you never fed them. So let me tell you about that. So
Yeah, they never showed up.
you
They
may
never
have
showed
fed
up.
13. That's the total of supporters out of that small community. I'm told it's under 20. So what I'm just trying to portray is that's where my heart lies and why I started to speak up, because it was my experience that their voice was not being heard. And so I've had people for the farm and people against the farm having conversations. But I think, and let me just say this, kudos to you for looking at a situation and feeding people. Like, that takes heart. I'm
De-escalate,
a
man.
firm believer in that. I love that you did that.
De-escalate it. Yeah, just de-escalate it. I don't mean to cut you off, but here's my question. You're obviously pretty familiar with the local community there, right?
Mhm.
Why wasn't their voice heard? Why didn't they reach out? Why were their opinions shut down? Why was that? If you got 300 people and you're telling me 20 people support it, what you're telling me there is 260 people know that they're all on the same side, and there's 20 people. Why are 20 people's voices mattering more than 280 people's voices, right?
Because right now there's
What was the
83,000
problem?
people. There's
Right, but
83,000 people in a mob. And there's also
yeah.
personal threats of people from the farm, physical violence, burning down other people's houses, and personal threats. There's a group of volunteers, former volunteers, that literally wrote, "We are scared shitless," in a group to speak up. That is their story. And that's why I started to use my voice as a person who's been in the media and on the radio previously, to use my voice and hopefully have others speak out. So I personally arranged a TV interview that was going to be anonymous so that some people could speak up about it. And what they ended up doing is one person went ahead, Randy, who we had on last night, and others went anonymously. So that, like, to explain what a rural community is, like, what we have there is there's a credit union, there's a post office, and there's a store. And so everyone knows everyone, but the reason people live there is to stay the hell out of people's businesses. They don't want to know what's going on. If you need help, they'll help you, but it's different. If you tell someone, go F off, I'm going to burn your house down in the city, they're just going to flip you the bird and go off. But in a smaller community, people take that stuff seriously. So I have like at least 5 different people suggesting there are personal threats. And I have emails, and I think Rick also has them, about the threats that have been made to the public or to locals from the farm. Like, this is a legit issue.
Like, look, if I was one of those 280 people and I was living out in Edgewood and all the truck traffic and all the thousands of people showed up out of nowhere, I probably wouldn't be very happy either, right? I think it's
100%.
important. I think it's important right now that you give those people a voice. What did those people have an issue with the farm? What was the issue before the threats were made?
Yeah.
What was the issue, right? I mean, they give them a
For
voice.
40 years,
Mhm.
they have taken advantage of people financially because of this satellite farm association. In my opinion, it's a Ponzi scheme. They go in, they sell people this beautiful thing, and I think Rick has a pamphlet of it. You spend $45,000 on 6 birds in that year. The minimum you're going to make, it says right on there, is $150,000 year. You can sell those eggs, you can sell those birds back to us. That's how much you're going to make. So that's just today. That's going on in the last 15 years. I have had conversations with 3 different satellite farmers myself. One is a friend of mine. My dad is involved in a logging business. So the farm has taken advantage of people, has cut down timber sales that is not theirs. They have went and gathered a bunch of investment money with locals, went to buy this beautiful piece of property, but instead of that, they have taken that money, or that land, sold it to a mill, kept the money from the mill, and kept the local investors' money. So there's 40 years of experience, and that's why I'm sharing with people. This is the pamphlet right there that shows
Yeah.
all the different
Sorry,
things that you can do with the ostrich.
So are you saying that 280 people were basically swindled, or is it like 20 people got
No.
swindled and then the other 240 were like, "Hey, that's wrong"?
No,
Like
there's
I'm trying to figure. I'm trying to go into like what did why are 280 people pissed off at this farm? Like that's I'm genuinely curious. Like
So
I'd
when
like to
other
know.
people came into town that had so there's investors in the farm, there's satellite farmers, there's people that have given loans. So what would happen is people would come to town to the post office, the credit union, and the store and ask if they knew where the farm was or the owners were. And everyone knew when they would come to town, they would just roll their eyes back because they knew that they invested or had some sort of misappropriation of funds. And this has been going on for 35 years. And so it's just one of those things where it's an arm's length away. In the last 15 years, the farm allegedly financially has not done that well. There are times when the birds went hungry and they have approached former satellite farmers and locals to invest. And so it's just been a shyster of an operation. You know, there's reports having
I mean,
grants of $200,000 for elk fencing that did not get put up. There is GoFundMe's for former sheds. So 17 years ago yesterday, a barn fell down and killed 35 of their ostriches. Locals came out all around to help them to remove the birds, the injured ones, and the dead ones. So everyone was heavily involved in the community. But when things went sideways, they went sideways. And everyone knows to not lend money or give them money or invest in it. All the locals know that. So it's more of a, I would suggest, and I'm just waiting for someone from the community to message up here, but it's an embarrassment. And if you come from a small community, you know, they still share sugar and flour, and they sell each other eggs, and you know, there's other local businesses there. And so when you threaten someone and tell them not to speak up, like that's a part of it. That's a huge part of it.
so what does that community want to see happen? They want to see the farm ultimately get shut down and people go to jail? I mean, like,
I
what's
have
the
one. Well, here's the thing. They don't want people to go to jail, but they want them to, they said I've had one guy who said they've had enough, clean it up and get it the F out of here.
so one person says shut her down ranch,
No, that's one person that I'm sharing. I speak regularly to about 30 different people, 15 different homes in Edgewood.
so if you were sitting in the driver's seat at that farm, and you were the boss, what would be the right thing to do? What would you do? I mean,
They should have shuttered
as
it down
the
before.
so
I'm not a person
you
that's
would
going
shut
to
the
take.
business down. That would be the
Absolutely,
intention.
because it's
Would be
not
to shut the
making
business.
money. Hasn't made money for 15 years.
Okay, and then what would you do after you shut it down?
Get off the property because it's not their land.
Okay, and then what would you do after you got off the property?
I would leave town and not come back.
Okay, and where would you go? What I'm getting at here is there's no end to that loop. There's no end to that story. And
Yeah,
for us
so
to sit
it's
here,
so what
for
they
us to
did
sit
is
here,
they turned it into a big fundraising grift.
well, for us to sit here and say, hey, here's what we would do. The human condition doesn't allow people to just, suicide their life, for lack of a better word. I don't know if I can say that word. I meant like destroy their own life.
Are you aware of what led up to all of this?
All I can tell you, man, is I saw what was happening in terms of the
Yeah.
people there, and I saw
Yeah.
tensions were high, and I saw a lot of, angry, hungry, non-communicative people acting
Okay, yeah,
almost
and
feral,
that's
to
fair.
be honest. And
But
and I
but
and I
Dave,
got involved for a small period of time where people were fed. I'm probably one of the most, I don't know what you'd say, like imbalancedly ignorant people there. I know way more about the research on, what an ostrich can do for the CFIA from biomedical research than I know about the farm. But I can tell you that in my interactions with the farm, I personally, and I mean, my job is to interact with people on the phone and, in meetings like this all day. I personally, when I was communicating with them, did not get any of the heebie-jeebies, or, I didn't sense any kind of disingenuity coming from there. Now, I could have been naive in this case, but I'll tell you, I personally believe that these people felt like in their heart they were doing the right thing. And if you think you're doing the right thing going out and saying pro-Palestine, October 7th was a resistance, and you believe that, I'll disagree with you, but I'm not going to tell you how to feel. I'm not going to gaslight you.
Totally.
And I think at the end of the day, if people are doing something that affects other people in a negative way, can you dust yourself off and get over it, or can you do something about it? And I think if you're giving a voice to these people in that community that were negatively affected, that's important. But at the same time, no, I wasn't. I'm not really filled in, man. I mean, you guys
Yeah.
are way more knowledgeable about what's going on at the farm than I am.
Yeah,
But
and so I mean, you asked why were the locals upset,
yeah,
and I don't think you're aware.
And they're also seniors. So the majority of the
yeah.
people are retired in the community. And how I got involved is one of the seniors was too scared to go to the doctor. And you have to understand the doctor, they might be going in a cusp, which is 45 minutes away with the ferry, or they're coming to Vernon, which is, just about 2 hours. And so they didn't
45
want to leave
minutes
their
in a
property.
ferry. The ferry is a 45-minute, or the ferry is 45 minutes away.
Well, including the ferry, it's a 45
I am
minutes to the
so
cusp.
sick. I am so sick of hearing Canadians complain about safety and complain about, inconveniences. I wait 45 minutes a day in traffic to get to
100%.
work.
I'll level with you.
All Canadians want to do is say, not Canadians, but I'm saying, like, there's this group of people, or there's this, not even a group, it's this mentality of, it's a brave thing to say you're scared of something rather than trying to say, how do I confront this issue face on? There's so much just behind the back, not in my backyard. Canadians are scared. Canadians live in like one of the safest countries in the world. Why are we scared to talk to our neighbors? Why are we scared to write a letter to your neighbor and say, hey, you know what? This farm thing is really starting to get on my nerves. I can't, my animals are getting riled up. All we hear is truck traffic and yelling and drumming all the time. Like, can you please do this? It's like, no, it's easier just to not treat each other cordially and talk, and then everything just gets raised up. But man, if I hear another Canadian complain about inconveniences or safety, I mean, I swear, like, it's a good thing where I live it's flat and there's no bridges, because it just drives me nuts about the Canadian safety complex. It's just
I think
insane.
there's a difference of how we live. So for everyone in Edgewood, I'm probably a city slicker. I live in Kelowna. Okay. So I live, 2 hours and 15 minutes away from them. So it's very rural. They're extremely lucky to have a post office. I don't know how much longer they'll have it, because most other ones have kind of went to the wayside. They have a credit union that I believe is open 2 days a week still, and they have a general store. They're like, to the next town, it's 155 kilometers. So I hear what you're saying, but you have to understand that it's just different in rural communities. They used to help each other. And here's the thing. So when shit goes down like it did on Thanksgiving with some disruptors who are wannabe influencers, the whole community got together and they backed each other on that. So that's the thing, is they can't speak up. So I hear what you're saying and I understand your
They
perspective.
can't speak up is such a weak argument.
Well,
I'm
they
sorry.
choose not to, but that's
That's their
okay.
choice. That's their
100%. And
choice.
it's
They're
my
choosing to
choice
cower instead of
it's my
stand up
choice
for
when
their
I hear an
family.
80-year-old person doesn't want to go to the doctor and I choose to speak up. That's why I'm speaking up.
If an
So it's
80-year-old person doesn't feel
No,
safe, they
no,
need to
no,
change
no.
their
These
living
these
arrangements.
people in the community, many of them have been threatened. And it's a recurring thing,
Then
Dave.
call the
It's not
cops
just
and
this,
file a
it's not
report.
just this protest. This keeps happening.
Call the police and file a report and do something
okay,
about
let
it.
me talk to you about that. Great question.
Yeah.
Literally had a
Yeah.
conversation today. So
Yeah.
there was numerous reports made, and you know what? No file was ever opened. I just
Why
found
not?
that out today. Had a conversation
Why
because the
wasn't the
police
file
didn't want to
opened?
deal with it.
Probably because they thought it was bullshit, because there's no evidence. Right?
Anyways,
Come on. If you're a
So you're
police
saying
officer,
you're just dismissing the reports of these
what I'm saying is you need
these people saying they were threatened, and you're saying it didn't happen.
I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm saying if the RCMP, whose job it is to serve and protect, says there's no case here, then either someone needs to go and confront the RCMP about this and
the intimidation and oops, we lost you again. Intimidation doesn't have to reach the level of criminality in order for it to have a chilling effect on local residents and whether they speak out on an issue. Certainly, we were in a Zoom meeting with a bunch of locals, Angie and I, and they all wanted to talk to me before coming on the program. And out of all of them, I think out of the whole group, 2 are brave enough to come forward as a result of this and share their stories here on this broadcast. I personally have received threats as a result of all of this, but for me, it's
so what
just
are you doing about that?
Well, for me, it just comes with the territory because I talk about politics. So it happens from time to time and people get emotional and, so they say things sometimes they ought not say or maybe don't really mean. But if you're not used to that kind of thing, or if you don't like confrontation, or if you're elderly or whatever your situation might be, you might not like that. That might be enough to just shut you up, which is what the intent is. And I can tell you that even within my media circles, I mean, I'm all kinds of threats toward me. Like, you better watch what you say. You could build a better channel if only you were saying the right things.
So let me tell you a little bit about the threats, though. So there was a senior woman. She is a neighbor. She's feisty as hell. She got attacked by one of their supporters. The guy came over, put a bunch of fuel all around her house, punched her in the face, and was going to light her and her house on fire. And how he did this, he not only put fuel outside her door, but right by her window. So if he would have lit that match, that lovely woman who is feisty as hell would not be here today because she wouldn't have got out that house.
So why isn't that guy in jail?
He went to court today, and I don't know what happened. I'm just waiting to have that information sent to me.
There you go. Justice is served.
It's not served by all means.
It doesn't change the fact that he's intimidated. It doesn't change the fact, Dave, that has an impact on the community and whether people are willing to speak up because they feel that there's a.
I think what we have to do on this, Dave, is we're going to agree to disagree on this because I'm literally having messages from the locals as I send this. They're asking me to share, as so is our whole TikTok community asking me to share about Lois.
I will tell you this right now. You are responsible for your safety, not your community, not the police. Me as a father of, as a husband, I'm responsible for the safety of my family. Other people to look after my safety. That's just foolish. So if you're living out in a rural community and you just expect everyone to be holly jolly all the time, and you don't have cameras up, you don't have a gun in your house, you don't have, a fence around your house, that's your decision.
I think we should just kind of go back to the subject of your donation, because I'm more than welcome to have, back on tomorrow when we have another local, but I don't want to speak specifically on their behalf. I am trying to raise their voice, but we're going to agree to disagree on this one. And it's good for you that you live in Texas.
I mean, who's responsible for your safety if not yourself?
Right? I'm not saying that, but
not yourself.
But okay, so anyways, I just don't think we're going to go anywhere with this.
How does a guy get to your house? Well, how does a guy get to your house and put fuel around your house when you're an elderly person?
Because there was 70 people standing right there telling everyone what a horrible neighbor she is and what a horrible person she is. Yeah. So when this happened, there was 70 freaking people standing there twiddling their thumbs and singing Kumbaya or something. It's all on video. So I'm getting spicy about this, but we'll agree to disagree. I'll happily send you the video after.
No, I'm sure it was a terrible instance, but she's still responsible for her own safety. If you're going to rely on other people,
she's not. The neighbors should be. The neighbors should have stepped in. So should have.
If you're going to rely on other people for your safety, that's in my opinion. If you're going to rely on other people for your safety, that's your choice, and that's not a safe
So it's her fault that she was assaulted and that someone threw gasoline on her?
No, of course not.
Okay.
Of course not. No. But if you are going to be in a situation beyond your own control and you're expecting other people to keep you safe, that's not the way to go about it. She's feisty, independent. I would have been, if I was her, I would have been on the horn with the police every single day saying, I need protection.
So
every single
thankfully
day.
the police
I
were
would say,
there
I
and the
don't trust
police
these
came
people.
down and the police caught the guy and he was a supporter of the farm. So
Yes.
here, let me ask you something about the finances that you donated, because some people want to know. You specifically said that that money that you donated, which is a significant amount, that was for food for the farm. And even though there was multiple donations coming in of actual food, and you were not earmarking that to pay the volunteers by any stretch of the means, is that true?
I mean, my intention was if someone was going to go and be at this farm and not have finances to eat, that's where it should go. Now, if a volunteer was going to, you know, drop their job and, cook something, I thought, well, you know what? I think a cook, if someone's cooking and working and feeding people, that was aligned, with what I was trying to help with, right? If there was a cook there and they were leaving their job, I didn't have a problem helping with that. But I mean, we're talking that was, I couldn't give you an exact number, but I'd say less than 1%, you know um
Because I
of,
was
of
I was led to believe that you were giving money to pay some of the volunteers $100 a day, or that they could go to the local motel and have a shower overnight. So that's what I was previously told by
yeah,
one of the organizers.
yeah, what's wrong with that?
No, nothing at all. It's just
why do
that's
you
a
why do you
question.
care why do you
No,
care about
that's
that?
because we have number of people asking just to verify this, that you, because that's awesome. That's what I was told. So no, I'm just confirming that.
But what does that matter?
They just wanted clarity because some people are saying that no one was paid. So there was a big hassle, and I don't know when. Do you mind, or do you know roughly when you gave the donation, or was there a couple?
It wasn't like a one-time
Okay.
thing. I'm
Um,
not look, I'm a normal dude. I just what I do with my money is my business, right? And
100%.
I didn't know who Jim was, Papa Bubbles. I had no idea who this guy was. Um, all I saw was pain and suffering, people trying to put their will at work to do something which I felt that when I looked at it, that I felt was a good cause, that I felt was a meaningful thing. I understood the science behind the ostriches. I understood that there was significant value in those eggs. And you know what, if somebody needed some help, because they're going to be out there cooking all day, I didn't have a problem trying to help them out, to pay a cell phone bill or here and there. But I mean, we're talking, it was a few $100 maybe, kind of thing, here and there to a few different people. And that was very temporary. I felt that that wasn't really fair, that if somebody needed something, if you talk to my friends or you talk to people in my community, they'll tell you, stories about me, and just trying to help. I just have a big heart for people. And so as far as like paying people to be there, that'd be a really silly thing to say. I had some people who told me they were under financial duress, but they wanted to be there and support the farm very, very early in the process before I
Yeah.
really knew anything that was going on there. And I said, you know what, if you're showing me your phone, um, you know, sure, you need $100. Oh,
No, we're losing him. Let's take a little break while he comes back online, and maybe his internet will stabilize a little bit. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back on the other side.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, we're back, and Dave is still.
Are we back?
There we go.
Are we back?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
So here, I think I'm here now. Am I here now?
There you go. Yeah, we got you.
So I think it's really important what you guys are doing here. You know, I was told on the outset there wasn't an angle or anything, but there's clearly an angle with what you guys are doing, and I'm not saying it's a terrible thing. You guys are trying to stand up, you know, for people who didn't have a voice. You guys are trying to present, you know, arguments and facts and you know, features from the opposition side of the farm. There's no question that on the farm side there's a heavy emotional investment for a lot of people. And I think that where we're at right now is that the human toll of this situation is far greater than the animal toll or the scientific toll. This issue has served to divide a lot of people. And I think it's a shame. And I think it's a real pity that the RCMP didn't contain you know, the people in the issue. I think it's a shame that the RCMP just left a detachment of, you know, half a dozen officers or something to deal with, you know, Freedom Convoy 2.0. And you know, I personally felt that the Freedom Convoy was a emotionally charged. I felt it was a patriotic thing going on there. I'm not anti-vaccine or anything like that. I'm fully vaccinated. But I think when people are willing to put their life on hold and go out and get together and support something, it's really important that we de-escalate and we try to get rid of the emotional side and we try to sit down and have dialogue, you know, which is what we're doing today. Either way with the farm, you know, I was pro bird. I wasn't pro farm. Like, I don't know the farm, you know, I don't know the owners, but I was pro ostrich, and I was really disappointed that the government didn't show leadership and you know, provide solutions and, you know, went a bureaucratic, you know, stickler way. And I think that what you guys are doing, you know, trying to give other people a voice, trying to put all the information out there, you know, would probably be better served in like a documentary or something that could kind of contain all the information you guys have been putting together. But at the end of the day, the thing got completely out of control. It went crazy. At the end of the day, people are responsible for their own safety. I think it's foolish to rely on other people for safety. And I think that if I was that person, you know, who was feeling threatened or, you know, didn't have the wherewithal to say, hey, this is going to get dangerous for me, it's not their fault they were assaulted, but ultimately you're responsible for your own safety. And if you don't feel safe, you need to do something about it. And I really feel bad for the people that were negatively affected by this whole thing. And there was tons of people all across the country that were negatively affected by this. But I really hope that people can sit down, have dialogue like we are, have differing opinions on things, you know, be combative in a cordial way. And unfortunately, I just don't see it happening. So, you know, if people need help, I try to help. If people, you know, don't eat, they don't act normal. You know, if people are hungry, things get worse. And so I just felt that the most important thing I could do was to try to de-escalate what was going on there, and that the easiest way to do that was through food, because food brings people together. So I don't think I in any way affected any kind of thing negatively there. I don't think that more people showed up to eat a meal or not. No one drives out to Edgewood, BC to get, you know, a sandwich, right? So I don't feel like I, you know, fed the fire or anything like that. I don't think
Of course you did. You
No,
did 100%.
That's horseshit. No way.
You provided, if you're sending funding to a protest in order to feed the protesters, you're helping them stay there. So of course you are.
You think that if people, you think that, so let me get this straight. You think that if people were unfed and were hungry, that they would have just gone home?
I'm saying that you're helping them achieve their goal by providing resources. Just Of course, you're helping them stay there. If they don't have food, eventually they're going to go find food.
You're saying that if people had to bring their own lunches, that they wouldn't have showed up.
It's saying that you picked a side and you helped fund it. You provided you helped the protesters because you were pro bird. So what? I mean, that's okay, but that's what you did. So to say that you didn't have any impact or didn't affect anything, that's absolutely not true.
I think if anything, I de-escalated the situation because I
think you helped prolong it. And the longer they were there, the more it escalated because it was entirely a political exercise.
Entirely inaccurate. No, that's entirely inaccurate because my involvement.
No, it's 100% accurate.
No, my involvement ended in June, and everything continued for 6 months after. So
yeah, but you got them to June, and you helped facilitate it, and the propaganda continued, and the influencers continued to come, and they were paid to come out there, and they had an army of social media propagandists that were brought to bear on this, and that generated a ton more donations, hundreds of thousands of dollars, not just not just chump change.
Rick, you're saying that free sandwiches prolonged a protest is what you're saying here. You're saying food. You're saying that, hey, David. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're saying, hey, David, if you didn't feed anyone there, this would have ended a long time ago. That's what you're telling me.
I'm saying that you contributed to the protest being able to continue. Of course it did. Anybody that donated helps it continue. Just like at the any protest, that's why they ask for the donations.
So how does contributing to the de-escalation, the improving the
but it didn't
health,
de-escalate. It helped continue.
The mental health. Did it improve?
It might make people feel better who are on the protester side, but you were funding one side, and that helped prolong it.
If someone's hungry, short on sleep, if someone's short on sleep, whipped up emotionally and hungry, is that a recipe for de-escalation? Or if someone is fed and
all they were doing out there was escalating, that was the intent of the entire exercise.
Rick, what you're saying is that my contribution worsened the situation, and my argument is that my contribution.
It depends on your perspective. If you think that they were doing something good, then what you were doing was helping, but you were having an impact one way or the other, and you were helping the protesters. So to say that you weren't having an impact is not true at all, and what you're saying is disingenuous.
No, what they were doing was not good because it was disorganized, and it wasn't healthy.
Okay,
and you put a level. Listen, Rick, you can't tell people what to do. You can't force the horse to drink water. You can bring the horse to the water, but you can't force it to drink. So if I'm trying to improve a situation, if I see a situation and I'm trying to improve a situation and I'm not there to mediate, I'm not there to tell people to go home. And the best I can do, like as a parent for you, if you're angry and you're stomping and kicking and I don't feed you that night, as you know, as someone I'm supposed to be looking after, that's not going to make anything better, right? I'm not giving you a reward. I'm doing the right thing. I'm contributing to the most essential part of your mental health and your physical health, which is to provide some level of sustenance. I believe, my personal opinion is, tell me if you disagree with this, but if you had an angry mob of unfed people, it would have been a lot worse for those neighbors. It would have been a lot worse for that entire community if you had people that did not have the ability to get organized in terms of feeding themselves. That protest lost. I did not contribute anything after the summer. I think June was the last meal that I purchased. To show that it goes from June, when the weather's nice and easy, through the winter, there would have definitely have been, guaranteed would have been way higher tensions, way less civility, even though it wasn't civil necessarily, even though the tensions were high. Imagine how much worse the mental and emotional health would have been for somebody that didn't eat anything, anything like anything substantive, right? If you've got an angry mob of hungry people, that's going to be a lot worse than a mob of people that are cooking together, talking together, coming together, eating together. It would have been way worse. And so while you might say, oh, David, you contributed to this and this whole thing would have died out. Well, we both know that's factually incorrect because it went on through the winter. And for you to say, oh, you picked a side and you did this, I tried to pick a side of civility. I tried to do something that de-escalated the situation, that put food into people's bellies in order to lower tensions, lower mental health issues that could be occurring from hunger, which we all know hunger contributes to worse situations. Sleep deprivation and hunger are two things that will control you, whether you like it or not. And
100%.
so I believe my contribution was a responsible de-escalation to allow people some space to communicate, talk, break bread together. And what you're going to say is no. You're going to say, David, you made it worse. Well, I'm going to say, Rick,
I
imagine what would have
say
happened.
I did not say that. I said that you prolonged it.
But you're thinking it though.
That doesn't mean that it was good or bad. That's a neutral statement.
How do I prolong something when my involvement ends in June and it goes through December? How did I prolong
Let me ask a question, Dave.
That makes no sense.
Let me ask you a question. Obviously, like,
you don't have to. No. Wait a minute. What you're saying is what you're saying makes no sense. You helped prolong it all the way to June, and it didn't start in June. This thing started back the December before.
How do I prolong something if it continues 6 months after someone gets a meal?
You prolong, you allowed it to continue right through June, and if you stop donating, then that's irrelevant in the overall picture because you still contributed to it.
Rick,
anyway, people are listening to this, and they can assess for themselves. You donated to it. You supported the protesters. You helped them stay there. You fed them.
Okay, not everyone there was a protester. What about the journalist that got a sandwich, right? What about the kids that were at the farm?
You mean the paid influencers that went out there?
I mean, I don't know.
Sure. I don't know that the people from.
I don't think you're inaccurate to say that. I don't think that.
I'm not inaccurate at all. I think
that's a reasonable statement. Yeah.
They wouldn't let the CBC and CTV on the property, is what I got told at the ass end of it. But anyways, let me just ask you a question. When was the last time you were in contact with the farm? Just out of curiosity.
Right before this interview.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that was probably the. Let me actually check. That was probably the first time I've been in. Let me see here.
Here's what I'm being told by some former volunteers.
So one
second. The former volunteers are saying that the money that you gave did not go to food. They had loads of donated food, and your money did not go there. That's what I'm hearing from former volunteers.
So the last contact I have, pertaining to, like, really anything is July 5th. September 23rd, nothing. Just telling them that I was paying. That I was done, basically. There was a bouncy castle that wasn't paid for that I felt bad for the guy that was helping with that. But no, yeah, today I contacted them today because I was like, hey, what the heck is going on? I need some answers from you. But no, as far as what you say there about where the money went, I would be seriously disappointed to hear that it didn't go to food.
Apparently, there's a 5-hour conversation with the organizer that allegedly you gave the money to that someone is saying they're going to go live with, because all of this information that you're sharing, it does not lead up with what the person who arranged the donation is. That's what I'm getting off TikTok right now.
Say that again.
So there's a 5-hour interview with I don't know what the term was for the individual who organized the donation, but apparently there's I think it's a 5-hour conversation. Because people on TikTok are saying that it was a party every night there, that there was illicit substances there, $700 worth of wine.
That's even worse. That's disappointing. Like I said, I never set foot on that farm. I saw the humanity, again, people trying to stand up for what they believe in. I believed in the birds. I felt that those ostriches, whether it was the owners being irresponsible with them or not, I felt for the birds. I saw hungry people.
So you must have been, I really like you. And I think that your heart's absolutely in the right place. But I have to ask you, did you get really upset when they told us that the birds were being shot in the dead of night in contravention of a court order, and that the birds were being liquefied and put into dumpsters?
I didn't hear about the liquefaction. I never heard that
Liquefied. They were
story.
liquefying
But
those
my
carcasses.
heart was actually broken when I heard that the birds were being shot. I don't know who was shooting them.
It was a horrible
but-
thing to hear. I listened to it as
Yeah,
well
it
as
broke
many
my
other
heart.
people did live, and the locals. It wasn't fun for them
But
either.
you understand that what I'm saying is they were never liquefied, Dave.
I don't know. I never actually heard
No, they
that
weren't
now.
liquefied, and they weren't being shot prior to the actual cull, as all of these social media influencers were alleging, as the farm owners were alleging. They were accusing the government of they were accusing the RCMP and the CFIA of killing these birds in contravention of the court order, saying that they couldn't do that until they got the Supreme Court of Canada decision on whether the case would be heard at that level. And you're saying, that, these people weren't given a voice. They were given nothing but a voice for a
Who
year.
did I say wasn't given a voice? I was talking about the neighbors. I
Okay.
was talking about the neighbors who weren't given a voice. Yeah.
But
You know,
you're
and I
saying,
think- I
if
think-
you
I think
speak
my
up in
biggest-
Canada, your voice doesn't matter, is what you were saying. That
Yeah,
it
it
doesn't matter
doesn't.
what you say. But
It
in
doesn't matter in
reality,
Canada.
they were given, that the court system is corrupt, we were told, because that was all part of the propaganda too. The reality is they were given absolute every opportunity for a year to prove their case. They went to court and lost, and went to court
Twice.
and appealed and lost, and went to
Twice,
court and
yeah.
appealed and lost, and lost and lost and lost, because they couldn't put forward any valid arguments. They couldn't show any valid science to back up these claims that even you're buying into, because you're
I'm
accepting their
I'm not
information,
buying
and it's
into
just,
it. I mean, look.
and
look-
I
look
think
in-
you've been
look into the-
misled, and I think you're a super nice guy, and I think your heart's in the right place, and I think that I totally, I don't even care that you donated the money, or even if you did prolong it, because I think that you just wanted to feed people, and that's cool with me.
If you say I prolonged it one more time, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I don't understand why you keep saying that. I didn't prolong anything, because prolonging something would say that something would end as soon as I step away, right? And feeding people.
No, because
to
many
de-escalate-
people were
You're painting me
donating
out like
to
you're painting me out
facilities.
like I'm a bad guy. Whereas I
No,
whereas
you're
I
not.
think
You're
that-
not. You're a good
I
guy.
think
You're
my biggest
you're actually a
weakness-
really good guy.
I think my biggest weakness is I think the best of people at all times.
Yeah.
I've been taken advantage of several times. Now I'm getting a little older. It's happening
Yeah.
less and less. But definitely an emotional issue for me seeing these birds go. Like for me, like an ostrich to me is like a dog. Okay, like I grew up with them. I helped raise them. I fed them. I get their emotional attachment. I could resonate. Is it resonate? Is that the right word? I could feel where the owners were going and what they felt, just because I had gone through, several years. So I felt bad for these birds. Hindsight in 2020, would I have been involved at all? My life would have probably been a lot easier if I hadn't been. Do I regret feeding people? I believe that if you had an angry mob whipped up in the middle of nowhere with no food, it would have
Who
gotten
told you
ugly.
there was no food? There was tons of food there, like tons. Like food got thrown out constantly.
I mean, I was told that no one was eating, that like it was like hunger.
Well, maybe
Or
I'll talk
I
to you
got scammed.
offline in
Maybe
regards
I'm
to
just
that.
maybe I'm just a naive, dumbass American like Dr. Oz that was swindled and screwed. Or maybe I was.
Why'd
just
you
a
move to the
compassionate-
States? Why'd you go?
Canada was unaffordable. I couldn't raise a family there. It was impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could live the life. That was in front of me, or I could go, to the States and actually make a life. And the United States allowed me to pay off all my debt, own a home within 8 years.
Wow.
And I'll tell you right
Way
now,
better down there, eh? Way better
well,
down there in the States.
It's not even close. It's really so. My son had a medical emergency In my view, it wasn't that big of a thing, but he had an issue. We got to the ER into a room within 3 minutes. You want to know how much that cost me? $100. You want to know how much it would cost you if you weren't employed? $0. In the state that I live in, they have to treat you. Period. If you have no money, no ID, and you walk into an ER, they have to treat you. They can't ask you for ID. They can't ask you where you live. If you walk in there, it's state funded. And if you can't afford your cancer treatment and you're not doing so well financially, you will receive your treatment for free.
Where you live? You're down there in Texas, right?
I'm in Texas, yeah.
Yeah. See, because I've done I did some work down in Texas as a journalist. In fact, I did a whole series on healthcare down there.
You consider yourself a journalist?
100%.
Okay. I'm not saying you're not. I'm just saying, like, some people are like, hey, I'm a commentator, I'm a pundit, or I'm a this.
No, I worked in mainstream television, network, local, regional.
Cool.
For over 30 years. I worked in radio, print. Oh yeah, man. I've been around the block.
Well, you're yeah, and you're obviously, I'm not trying to say you're obviously upset about the farm. Like, I mean,
no, I'm upset. I'm not upset about the farm. I'm upset about people lying, because what we're all about here is I do give everybody a voice, and I have had the farm owners on. I've had everybody from every side on here. I've had Dr. Pellick on here. I gave him 7 hours on this program.
Yeah, wow.
7 hours.
Yeah, wow.
So you can't say that I'm not fair.
I'm not
balanced. I absolutely am.
Biased. It's just, you're charged. You're definitely charged.
Because I don't like people lying about things like liquefying birds to get people emotional.
Yeah,
I don't like people. I don't like people, taking advantage of my platform, as people have throughout this, just to get access to the audience to spread the lies. I saw somebody today on a very prominent platform lying his ass off about the ostriches again, because this month people are out there. There's this, there's a resurgence. There's some desire, for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, but this month, to rekindle the whole ostrich farm thing. And that's what's going on here.
No, that's strange. I mean, I left the ostriches behind. I left the ostriches behind in July, frankly, because I wasn't able to financially contribute, and I felt that there was just it was just time. Like, it was time for someone else to figure it out. I felt good that I feel that food improved the safety of the situation. I felt that having an angry mob of people who are sleep deprived and hungry, maybe people would have started breaking into people's houses, or raiding
them in gasoline.
I don't know, man. I mean, all I can tell you is that in terms of violence or anything like that, while people were eating, I didn't see anything in that period. If I had, I would have been really concerned. But for me, it was food, breaking bread. People need to calm down. No one's going to be calm when they're hungry. Everyone's going to be more irritable. And I really don't appreciate you saying that I prolonged it there, because I feel that by saying that, it's inaccurate, because the protest, or whatever you want to call it, would have continued whether or not I had put any sandwiches in people's hands. I think we can agree there that whether or not people were eating, people had food, that it wouldn't have made a difference. They would have still been there. There still would have been a frenzy.
They'll tell you made a difference.
Rick, in fact, it probably would have been worse, because you would have had irate, hungry people saying, we're starving out here, and maybe more people would have been, taken advantage of or something. You know what I mean? Like, I think that it's really unfair for you to say that I prolonged anything.
I'll reiterate the fact that there's plenty of videos where there's tons of food. They literally brought in trailers. There was a mountain of toilet paper. So what you may not know, Dave, is that behind me right now, there's a whole entire TikTok community talking about this, and they have all focused on it. There's left people, there's right people, there's centric. This all started way back in the convoy. They used to hate each other. They all got together because they all investigated the situation with the farm. The El Chillards, like former foes, got together and linked up and had conversations, and we're all on the same team. And so
We
we've
need
all
to
watched
agree. We need to agree that the government demonstrated the worst level of leadership in this situation, because those are the people that are supposed to be keeping us safe. The government is supposed to keep us safe and keep us healthy. And instead of doing something about it, they sent a group of RCMP officers out there to suck up all their time when they could be actually focusing, maybe get some more support out there for our poor officers that had to deal with everything.
But who
And
prolonged it? Who
sorry,
prolonged the situation? Who prolonged this situation?
who prolonged the situation?
Yeah.
I mean, the owners. I don't know. If you're going to say I
So,
prolonged anything,
no,
again,
I'm
I,
not
I
suggesting that at all. That's not where I'm coming
okay.
from at all.
Who did prolong it? I'm curious. Who did prolong it? Like, I would say the owners of the
There
farm.
was 3 court cases, and my
Yeah.
understanding is that it should have been taken care of February 2nd. The owner's responsibility was to unalive the animals February 2nd. And what happened midway through January is they decided not to. And that's when the entire community really got their back up. And that you can see online.
There's a disaster level of leadership, in my opinion, from the government. They
From all
just sat
sides.
back.
From all sides.
Well, there you go, and there's the Canadian condition there, right? Let's sit back and complain rather than actually pick up our shovels and do something. I bet you if 280 people showed up at that farm from that community and got somewhat organized, they would have outnumbered the people at that farm 2-1, and they could have set up their own counter protest, and with the RCMP there. And I mean, it sucks. The whole situation just sucks. Can we agree
Totally.
that the whole situation just sucks?
Absolutely.
And can we agree that to put this thing to bed, to finally put it to rest, interviews like this aren't going to do that. What will do that is a public forum between the owners of the farm and the opposition of the farm, where everyone is briefed on the facts and data ahead of time, and we can put this thing to bed. I feel terrible for everyone involved. I feel terrible for the neighbors, for the community of Edgewood. I feel bad for the people that went out there that were sold something that wasn't happening. I feel bad for, learning about stories and that money might not have been used to buy food or wasn't used to buy food. In cases, it sounds like it's all disappointing and terrible. But at the end of the day, I feel that had people not eaten, sat down, cooked together, and been civil, at least for a portion of their day, this situation would have been much, much worse. That's my personal opinion. I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it unless I felt it was de-escalating the situation. I'm not a fan of uprising. I want to see people sit down and talk and break bread. That's my. It sucks, dude. The whole thing just sucks. But,
okay, well,
That's fair.
Dave, thanks for joining us on the program. Is there anything else you'd like to say
No,
before we sign off?
No, I think that I think that where I'd like to kind of leave this is that we deserve better. We deserve so much better as Canadians, as people that watch news. We deserve.
What do you mean we? You don't live here.
I was just in Canada. Stop saying that.
Well, I thought are you living in the States or Canada?
I jump back and forth about 6 months of the year. So
Okay.
I'm like verifiably. I was Canadian resident, U.S. resident. I kind of go back and forth. It's a tax nightmare. I'll tell you that right now. But I definitely pay a lot of Canadian taxes. There's no question about that. But but we deserve more as a culture and a society in Canada than to continually rely on a government that just seems to leave us behind. I think people like you, Rick, you do a good job putting issues in front of people. I think that's something you do quite well. But I think that at the end of the
Well,
day,
I'm
we need
not
to
here for you to critique me. You're here to you're because you want to go down that road. Like I can hit back too. That's
Do it.
not what we're here for.
No,
I'm not
I'm
here to
saying
be
you do a good
insulted,
job
and
putting issues in front of
here.
people.
I'm not here for you to come after me.
I said you
I'm
put
here for you
the issue in front of
I'm here to
people.
give you a voice on this
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
So keep it on track.
Okay. I don't know what I
Okay.
said there. I don't know what I said there that was wrong. I wasn't trying
Well, I
to.
saw where you were going, and you've already been there. You call
I just
yourself
said
a
you put the
journalist,
issue-
you said.
No, I
So-
said, are you a journalist? Are you a pundit? Are you a political commentator? Like, I was just asking where you.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
I
man.
was just asking where you
I
live.
wasn't trying to ruffle your feathers there again for another pun, not intended. But no,
Mm,
no, man. I wasn't trying to take a jab at you. I was just curious where you're at, and I
okay.
think you do. I think you do put the issues out, and I think you do highly value data and facts, and you try to look at everything.
Truth.
I think you do that. But the ostriches might have survived the bird flu, but for 6 months the government couldn't survive doing the paperwork to get it done right, couldn't give the resources to the RCMP to keep things contained. And I think that we need to, rather than look at each other and say, you know, you're right, you're wrong, you should have done this. I think we need to look at the government and say, hey, where was the
I think we
government's
need to look at the
evidence?
farm owners because they're the ones responsible for this thing from the very beginning.
Sure, I
And
think that's a
they're the
fair
ones,
statement.
it's because of them that those birds
That's a
ended up
fair.
where they wound
That's
up.
a fair statement. I think that's a fair statement. You got to take. They got to take responsibility for being at the center of the issue. There's no question there.
Mhm.
And
But
they haven't. I think that's the issue. If
Never
they
did.
would have came
Never
out and
did.
said, we did not bury them in a timely fashion, we did not put up the fencing, the wildlife netting, we could not quarantine them because we were in a financial pickle, I think the majority of people would have went in and said, how can we help? But they instead told a narrative that the big bad government is after them. They got the convoy crew involved because they are anti-government. And let's be honest, both things can be true at the same time. The farm can be responsible. The government can do things a hell of a lot differently. I think that's where we're at.
worse.
I
think the word
trust
is
there's going to
worse.
be a review of all of this for sure.
Yeah,
But
I think the government can do it worse. I think this, but again, like just to reiterate, I think to say I prolonged anything, I don't think that's an accurate statement. If anything, my involvement was simply de-escalating and trying to have some civility, brought into this situation. This wasn't about helping the protest. This was about de-escalating a situation that, had you not had those calories, had you had hungry and sleep deprived people on that property, it wouldn't have been a recipe for anything. And so, I was trying to act in compassion. I was probably, I don't say lied to, but I mean, I was probably led to believe certain things that weren't true. And being emotionally charged, or maybe I was taking advantage of there. But I think I appreciate what you guys are doing. I do appreciate what you guys are doing, but I don't appreciate being framed as someone who prolonged a protest that ended 7 months after, or 6 months after I had fed anyone a sandwich. I just don't think that's a fair thing to say. So, and we can agree to disagree about that, right? That's how we have civil
Do you know,
discourse. So,
just one last thing. Do
yeah.
you know what the farm was offered up front when they were ordered to cull the birds?
I hope it was at least like $20,000 a bird. I have no idea though. Like I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. Like I said, man, I was not involved.
20,000.
Is that what they were offered?
No,
Per
I'm
bird?
not saying they were offered 20,000. I think that's a
Oh.
ridiculous amount for you to come up with.
Well, if it's 45,000, what was it? $45,000 for two birds? You said, Angie, earlier. What was
that's
it?
how much they sold. No, they sold 6, is my understanding, for 45,000.
But young ones though.
Breeding birds.
Young ones.
No, they were breeding.
They're breeding birds without antibodies.
How do they get these antibodies, Dave?
Yeah,
Well,
how
they
do
have to
we
get
get
it. They have to get it. They have to get
protein?
sick, or not sick, but they have to have at least an mRNA spike protein.
Yeah, they were injecting the birds
Allegedly.
with us spike protein, right?
an antigen.
I think you might, you might actually know more about this than me. My understanding was it wasn't really any different than how you would create antibodies in a normal way, in a safe and effective manner, is my understanding. Now, again, I could be totally wrong.
7-hour interview with Dr. Pellick. I know exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, I could be totally wrong about this, but again, my understanding was that what they were doing was not out of line with what I was familiar with happening on the ostrich farm that I worked at, which was.
You were injecting your birds with COVID antigen?
I was not injecting any birds, no.
They were?
Who?
Wherever you were working, were they doing COVID research on the farm?
They were working with the CFI on antibodies, is what they were doing.
What kind of antibodies?
I don't know, dude. This is 25 years ago, probably.
Oh,
I think I was like between the age of 13. Like I said, the emotional side probably comes because I was like 11, 12 years old when I started there. I was 13 when I started working with the birds. So again, it's like one of those things from your past, right? Like you're a kid, you're working there, middle school. There's definitely an emotional part of me with that, right? No, yeah, no. Well, I hope that the community of Edgewood can heal from this. I really do.
Me too.
I hope that the people who are rallying behind this aren't just simply influenced by people they follow on TikTok, I hope that the government looks at the way they handled the situation. The government prolonged the situation. They could have come in there months before they did. I think when was the Rick? Do you know when the last like actual final court thing happened? Like when the final decision was made? Do you know when that actually happened?
Yeah,
November
it was right before the Cull.
November
Oh, it was right before the call. See, I'm telling you, man. I know about the birds. I
or was it
really am
November
not
6th?
that educated on the situation. So,
How
and
can
I
you say that the
apologize.
government prolonged it?
Well, no, I can't. No, that's a
Mhm.
completely inaccurate statement because you said the final, like the book was closed right before the call.
Yeah,
See,
like the
I'm
day
under,
before. Yeah.
so again, right? Like this is the whole thing. This is what happens when there isn't a single no, I don't mean there isn't a credible news source. What I mean is when there isn't one place you can go to for the fact and say this is the fact. I'm under the impression that the government just drug this on for months. That's right, which isn't correct. Which
No,
talking with you, I'm under the impression that this thing was drug on by the government, and the government was sitting on their hands, and they didn't do anything.
No, they
Whereas
went to
maybe,
court, and
yeah,
I think it
lost
needed to go
twice.
to court. It went through due
Yeah.
process. They could have
Hmm.
taken care of it February 2nd, in my opinion.
Hmm.
They probably would have had
Hmm.
a fight on their hands with the farm. But
Hmm.
I respect the court system, and I think I respect the laws, and I realize not everyone, like, for anyone who's a farmer that I've spoken to, they believe in what the CFIA does. Can there be changes? Absolutely. Should there be, different things, and should ostriches be located in another thing, not poultry? Let's let the experts decide. Like, that's my
Hmm.
thing. I think there's 62 different organizations, not for profits, that work alongside the CFIA. So
Hmm.
hopefully they stand up, shake some things, and say, let's make some changes. Right.
Hmm.
So I think, and that's like, I joke around that I think I've owned maybe 30 chickens in my life. I shouldn't be the one that's making the change.
Yeah.
Chicken farm, right?
Yeah. You don't tell people how many chickens you have. It's how many you have left, right?
There you go.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, you guys, look, I wish you guys the best. I would like to see the whole thing just go to bed and not come up, and just continually emotionally charge. I don't think that's what our society needs right now. I don't think we need to you know get upset about that. I would love to talk about things that are making us happy about where we live. Like
Absolutely.
nothing would make me happier than to talk about the great job that people are doing to help each other out in the neighborhood. And it just seems like the media does not give a crap about anything good. It's all bad news. So I'd like people
Well,
to know
because
there is good news. There is good news out there, folks, but you just
absolutely,
gotta go. You gotta go looking for it. You're not,
totally.
you gotta
Our
go.
is
You gotta try to find it. So,
our
but
issue is 15 years ago, all the news agencies fired their news directors and
yeah,
went with whatever Twitter was posting or social media
yeah.
started to post.
Well,
We
stop
don't
giving it
have
attention then. Stop giving the farm any attention. Like let this be. Hopefully, this was a good interview. I feel like we had some pretty good discourse. We had some combativeness. I pissed off Rick. He pissed off me. We did pretty good. And Rick, I was not saying, oh, you call yourself a journalist. That's such a cheap
okay.
shot. I was not saying that. I was like, no, like where you're putting yourself in the journalistic,
And
class, which
and
is
Dave,
which is
I
no
have to
better,
say,
which is
I
no better
actually
than a
like you.
pundit.
I do. I like you, and I think that your heart's in the right place, as I said.
Yeah.
And I
Well, let's
didn't
just.
mean
I mean, look. My
anything.
suggestion would be to not give the farm any more attention, and give the people of Edgewood attention. That would be my suggestion. You
Well,
That's what
know.
we were
that's
doing.
been my intention here, and I
Yeah.
thought when you were coming on that
No, I mean
that
as
would
people.
help with that too, because
I
you
mean
you
as
brought a
people.
different kind of perspective.
Yeah, I mean outside of the farm. I mean, give them attention, right? Like go to that poor lady that had gasoline poured around her house,
Mhm.
and see if there's a guy that wants to make $20 an hour to shovel the gasoline out of her yard, or, I would like to see the community heal from this. I would like to see the whole thing put to bed and go away. It's over. The birds are gone, right? So it's over. There's no point in talking about those birds. Now,
It's
if the
over for
farm is going
everyone
to,
outside of the community. It still is. It still unfortunately is
yeah,
happening. We
and
will
that's
talk to
really
other local
unfortunate.
residents tomorrow in
Yeah.
regards to that.
And
That's really unfortunate. I would encourage people to take responsibility for their own safety. I do not want to see anyone reliant on, third parties for their safety. I think that's a really irresponsible thing to do. I think you have to be responsible for your own safety. And I think that if people don't feel safe in Edgewood, they need to be very loud about that. They need to say, hey, RCMP, we need 12 more people in this community immediately because we don't feel safe, right? People need to take responsibility. If you just sit back and say, hey, I don't feel safe, and that's all you do, I mean, that's I don't like that. That makes me like sad for them. I want to see people feel safe. I don't want to see people bullied or threatened. That's just such horse crap. People need to step up and do more than just make a phone call. If the RCMP closed the case on me, I would show up at that door like the next day and be
Well,
like,
that's what I
hey,
just said today, that
yeah,
I would happily be an advocate.
yeah,
Like that's not okay when
yeah, pitter
numerous
patter, get at her.
complaints have
Yeah,
happened.
yeah, get at her, man. You can't let that go. Well, you guys, look, again, I wish you guys the best. I'd like to see closure on the farm. It sounds like it won't go away. It's the flu you can't shake, right? As we said, I feel disappointed and just sad about the whole thing. And I would like to see good things happen, and I would like to see Mark Carney ban corporations from buying houses in Canada. I would love to see that. How wonderful would that be? I don't care if it crashes the price of my house. I would love to see my neighbors getting into a home that are, stuck living in a 2-bedroom apartment with 4 kids. I currently live in a 3-bedroom apartment with 5 kids. So believe me, I know what it's like to live in an apartment and be crammed. So anyway, guys, I wish you the best, Rick. Congrats on all the work. I'm sure you've put hundreds and hundreds of hours into this. Um, you're you're doing your best. I truly believe that. I truly believe you're doing your best, but I don't think you're doing anyone any favors talking about the ostrich farm anymore. The farm. I think you got to focus on the people of Edgewood, but I think the farm is leading you down a. Just makes you angry. It just makes you so angry, So I would like to see the people of Edgewood get more attention than the farm. Does that make sense? What I'm saying there?
I've given everybody a voice.
Right. But I just think giving the farm, if it pisses you off that the farm is what was the word we came up, spectacleization? What was the word we came up with there?
It's a good word.
I think if that irritates you, you got to move on to another story and make it about the people of Edgewood and maybe their farms.
Oh,
What are
I'm
they doing?
fine. I'm
Yeah.
fine.
But
Do
I
what
think
you gotta
telling
do.
the truth and exposing the facts,
I
that's
think that's
what's
fine.
also good for the locals in Edgewood, and that's what I
I
believe
think
what we're doing here.
I think that's fine, but I think in order to be, effective with your time, you could put 50 hours into a documentary or a video.
That's already
and
on the
and
go.
well, there you go. Okay, see, great minds think alike. I do wish you guys the best. I think it's important for the farm to come up with their documentary as equally as it is for someone like your organization to do it, so that the public can make their own decisions. I think that's really
There's a
important.
solo organization that's not affiliated with any of us doing one, and there's also a CBC investigative report going on as
Yeah,
well. That's talked to both sides.
yeah. Someone needs to wrangle that cattle to the ground. So,
Wrangle the
well,
ostrich. And on that note,
wrangle wrangle the ostrich. Stop burying your head in the sand. It's a fully
so
fledged
to be
issue.
clear, ostriches
Fully
don't bury
fledged
their
shit
heads in
show.
the sands, fellas.
I
They
know.
don't.
I'm
They
just
put them
kidding.
down on the ground, and it
I'm
may
just
look like
kidding.
it, but they don't bury
Yeah.
their heads in the sand.
Yeah.
That's a
It's a
fallacy.
It's a.
See, there's a proof.
It's a colloquialism. Yeah. Well. Yeah. You guys. Well. Hey. Look. Rick. Appreciate it. And go feed people, man. Go buy your neighbor a pizza. Go get a casserole.
We do
Go meet
plenty
your
of work
neighbors.
around here to help people out, and
I'm saying in
and
general, people
yeah,
watching this thing, the best thing you could do is, knock on your neighbor's door, show up with a casserole and say, I hope you're doing well, and leave. You don't need to go be buddies with people, but if we feed each other, if people show up with food It changes everything. I can't tell you how many meals show up at my door when I move into a new place. When I move into a new house in Texas, it's like meal train. And the funny thing is about that, yes, it's nice. It's nice to be moving in. Your neighbors show up with a casserole, but guess what they're doing? They're checking you out. They're coming to see, are you are you a drug dealer? Like how are your kids? People show up with food. Yeah, it's good, it's healthy, but that's how you get to know who's living next to you. And
Absolutely.
I wish Canadians did more of that. But you guys have a great night. Yeah, take care, y'all.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
try not to get too emotional about things, Dave.
I mean, unless there's something else you want to ask me. I mean, whatever. But
I think we've covered it.
I have one question for you. Were you involved at all with the Freedom Convoy? Did you ever make a donation there?
No, I didn't even know about it. I was like working in Texas. I found out about the Freedom Convoy probably like 2 months after it all got shut down. And I mean, I wasn't like watching the news or anything. I was buried like 80 hours a week in work.
You can't get the Canadian news in America, so there you go.
Oh no, you can. Oh, you absolutely can. It's just I was working like 80 hours a week, like literally 16-hour days, and wasn't even seeing my family. So no, that was weird. The whole thing was weird, and it was really sad what happened there. Again, government leadership, right? Like if you're going to be a leader, you can't just be a leader for
one side.
Right. Did we lose him?
I think we might have. Well, thanks so much, Dave, for coming out here and sharing your side of your donation.
Pardon me?
I said thank you so much for coming out here and sharing your story about your donation and your involvement and your history with ostriches as well.
Yeah, I think if you were to sum it up in a sentence, I was emotionally attached to the birds. I was taken advantage of in terms of not really knowing where the money was going, but I fed some people. I had some dialogue, people had dialogue, and ultimately for a while, I feel like that the food brought a little bit of peace that wasn't there. It wasn't peaceful the whole time. There was no question, but I think we, the most compassionate thing we can do for your enemy is to at least feed them. We even feed our prisoners. You know what I mean? We don't starve our prisoners. So yeah, you guys. I mean, be good, love each other, take care.
Thanks for being generous.
Bye for now.
Ciao.
I'd like, yeah, I'll tell you what, I'd like to come up with a way or figure out, maybe if there's a way to balance the scale or something like that for the people that, were on the other side. Like, what can we do? What can I do? What can we do to,
well, they are accepting donations for there's a group called Cull. That is an organization that works with, animals. There's also the community association that also runs the
send me a link. I'll be happy to.
And the fire department. The fire department is one of the best. The Edgewood Fire Department.
Send me some links. Anything I can do to help.
We'll happily do that. Thank you so much for your generosity and your time, Dave. Appreciate it.
You know what? Just do the right thing. Just live within your means and do the right thing. That's my advice for anybody. So
absolutely.
Take care, y'all.
Thank you.
Right. Bye for now.
There you go. So, thoughts?
I did not know where that was going to go, and I'm surprised. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you not speak to him beforehand?
I spoke to him yesterday for 7 minutes, but not a whole heck of a lot.
I see. Interesting. Yeah, because that didn't quite mesh with some of the information that I was given by a couple.
It doesn't mesh with any of the information I was given either. So that it's really interesting to see that the information was stretched. And that's what some other people, the locals and other people that are involved are saying, that there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Angie, it is 9:07. Gets us to the top of the hour. Anything else you'd like to talk about tonight or focus on? Or
I think just sharing the fact that we have 2 individuals from Edgewood coming on tomorrow night to talk about their experience and some challenges that they had, over the years.
Yeah. Residents, right? That's who we have. Yeah. Which is what Dave is suggesting we do, which is exactly what we've been doing, is to try to give everybody a voice. And right now it's the local residents who until now really haven't had an adequate voice in this crazy story that is ongoing.
Absolutely.
So,
Thanks
yeah.
again, Rick, for allowing us the opportunity to share their story.
Thank you, because you've been digging into this and doing a lot of background work, and I think it's been very valuable. So,
Well, and I think for anyone that's on the fence, they should go to the Universal Ostrich Farm exposed page. That's where all of the details are. The gals there have put it all in file folders and everything. So if people want some more information, that's where you would get it from.
sure. Just one last thing. Where do you think that Dave really gets it? Do you think he sees what has happened to him?
I think he's starting to, as many do when they get the correct information in front of them, right? So I think it's interesting. I understand people's emotions and people's passion about the birds. I've had some conflict with, some of my good friends about it. I never wanted the birds to die. I don't think that there were a lot of people that wanted them. I know some locals and such were frustrated and had enough, but I think it's confirmation bias. We go through, we attach onto something and we rock and roll with it until someone sits us down and go, hey, here's the different side of this. And that's why I love what you do, because you're challenging people, you're asking hard questions, and you're relaying the other side of the information. And I think this is what's lost in news and journalism today is, CBS says that they are just going to be sharing the information now, and everyone else is going to be able to make their opinion on that. But when we have influencers and paid influencers at that, sharing one side of the story, we're never going to get that information. Like, I'm sure she's not a paid influencer to do this, right? I'm not making a dime. I don't have anything monetized. I have free ice cream coming. That's the only thing I've received from this, right?
I want to share something with you, but I need to take a quick break. So do you have a little bit more time?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let me just hang tough. Folks, don't go anywhere. I'm going to come back on the other side of this. And I want to highlight something, and I'm going to get your thoughts on it. Stay with me. Going to be right back.
Brightleaf Innovations is excited to offer our newest investment opportunity, the Turn Easy Bed Storage Solution.
Turns with a touch, spins all the way around. Every little thing you need is easy to be found. No more clutter, no more mess on the floor. Just spin it, reach it, you don't search anymore. Turn Easy Bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day. It custom shelves for your books or your tech. Cozy space for your treasures to protect. Built-in power when you need to recharge. Smart design that makes your bedroom feel large. Turn Easy Bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day. Designed and developed by Brightleaf Innovations. Proudly Canadian and patent pending in North America. Turn Easy Bed transforms how you live.
To learn more about this innovative new product idea and exciting investment opportunity, call 519-784-0222 or visit brightleafinnovations.com.
Okay, we're back. See, here's the thing. Somebody sent me a link to the Redacted program today, and I stopped watching them because I stopped watching them.
Fair.
And Krayden was on there, our Canadian friend.
Oh, my biggest, I've sent him so much information. Him, Rebel News, Viva Fry, Daisy. The only person I haven't sent stuff to is the Rude Dude. And they all have not went to the other side. So I had a message that he called you out apparently yesterday.
Oh, did he? Oh, good. This,
Report-
who did?
Yeah.
Krayden?
I was told that.
Oh, okay. Good. That's great. Don't watch him anymore.
Oh, I
Or
don't.
very little. I only picked up some of this crap that he was saying about the ostriches, about the liquefaction. I was like it was appalling.
He's the Inquirer of our time, right?
Well, I don't know. Like he's got mainstream media background. I thought the guy was credible. Then he starts talking about liquefied birds. You know, like, so anyway.
Don't you think, like, and you would know this, you were mentioning, you know, offline here that you had 150,000 viewers a night when the convoy and stuff was going on. So
Yeah.
financially, you probably got a bit of cash from it.
I wasn't monetized.
Oh, you weren't monetized. Okay.
No.
Pardon me. So, and I think this is the issue is like, I've even been accused of making money off this. And I'm like, show me the money. I know for sure that I can get a free bag of ice. And I know for sure I get free ice cream this summer. That's all I've been guaranteed. So for people to say that I'm doing this for money or anything, I'm not. I don't. And I was going to get emotional there. My My dad's 81. My mom is 76. I didn't want to have them upset or hurt by some of the crap that has been sent to me. And I will share this today. I did have to make a police report on some stuff. So oddly enough, the RCMP called me back today because of the threats I received. And I don't say that to get any attention, but I am saying it for it to stop. Because there are some people out there with nefarious backgrounds and trying to hurt others. And like, pardon my French, but go fuck your hat. Like, do something else. Go take your grief and do it for good. You're never going to come to Edgewood. You're never going to come to Kelowna. You live somewhere else. And I think it's just tacky. And so I haven't even shared this with my family or any of my friends. There's a handful of people that know about it, and it's wrong. And if you're trying to hurt someone else, like, go have a sandwich, go donate to someone else, because what I'm trying to do is likely different than what other people are doing. I have friends and family in Edgewood. I go there in the summer. That's why I'm passionate about it. And I'm okay if people agree to disagree. But you don't have to come after me and threaten my livelihood and other things. So, sorry, I trust that's where we weren't going right now, but
that's okay. No, that's important, you know.
And that's the reason why I've included you on this, because we were going to go do more on TikTok, and I had to take it off because I did get hijacked last week by an unknown person. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity. Because I did need to use someone else's format. So hopefully they wouldn't come after it. And because they can report it on because I don't have a lot of followers and such on YouTube or, you know, on TikTok. And I went through and I removed a whole bunch of people because they were just donkeys.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't really want to single Krayden out. Somebody sent me the link today to this new video that was posted on Redacted. And I just highlight it here because, you know, this whole ostrich thing, everything I've shown on this program has shown that this is political and that it ties into all of these other issues and even to the 51st state rhetoric, which is reaching a fever pitch now. And the separatist movement. And if people can't see the connection, maybe you'll see it a little clearer here, because here's the Rumble channel for Redacted. Krayden was on here. In fact, I'll start it here and just show you that he's on the program. There he is right there. He's on this program, I guess, as a semi-regular, regular. I don't know how often he goes on, but he's on from time to time, I guess. And again, I don't really watch, okay? But the link was sent to me today, so I just clicked the link and I went over and I looked. It wasn't, because partway through, he starts talking about the ostriches again, which was interesting to me because, as I've come to find out, and as I've mentioned, I know that there is an effort to ramp up the narrative again, to start focusing attention on this issue this month.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not sure why you said it's because they're planning some sort of a convoy, maybe. Again,
my belief is that they're linking it up to the anniversary of the convoy, because obviously that's coming up. But
right.
yeah, we've had other people say that they are, because they are trying to switch and change the narrative, that I believe they've created a foundation called Clock, I think, something of that nature, to be a voice for farmers. So if farmers want to get involved in that, and absolutely all the power to them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because I can't answer the phone right now. I hate it when that happens because I can't think when the bell is going off. Okay, so the reason I highlight this is because the people may not think that these things are connected, that this farm and the ostriches and the 51st state and separatism are not connected. They're all connected. Because over on Redacted, now I was told that he was talking about the ostriches again. Oh, okay. And I thought, well, I wonder if he's talking about having, has he talked about them being liquefied anymore? I don't know. So I watched a little bit. I didn't watch all of it. But what I did notice that really got my attention was the comments underneath. And, it's just this anti-government, anti-Canadian rhetoric all through this video. It's like anti-Canadian government. It's
does he want to be a part of the 51st state? Is that what he's shooting for? What other reason would you do this?
I would say that he is. He certainly entertains and platforms the separatists from Alberta. I would say he's in that vein. I mean, I don't know what David. It's not even about that for me right here, right now.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is the rhetoric. What he's saying here again about these ostriches today, which in my view is extreme exaggeration and in some cases just not truthful, but you can assess for yourself. Okay. But the impact, the result of all of that is what you get in the comments below. And right here, Canada is a failed system of government. The collapse is inevitable. There's nothing worth saving. Let it burn. Alberta independence is the only off-ramp. That's what you get as a result of what they talk about on this program today. And not just today, but over and over and over again. That's what this is all about, man, at the end. And if that's not what it's about, that's the effect.
Well, and I think, as we mentioned before about those, including Rebel News, that won't tell the other side of the story. And everyone blames CBC for being a government paid agent. But yet I've been a witness. I've sent numerous messages to Rebel, Viva Fry, however we say it, through Freeway Frank on Instagram, if someone is sharing this with him, Daisy Media, like you name it. I've spoken to the people at Northern Perspective as well, and they were hesitant to deal with it because they don't know what side, and because of this rhetoric, they want to have all of their information, all of their facts, and it was too muddled for them to have a conversation about it. And I think that's why if you want to have the facts and you want to have both parties on, I think that's fair. I hope that people have those both sides of every story on there, and not just both sides, but have the community part too. And I always tell the story. So when I first got into radio, and I worked at Sun FM in Vernon twice doing news, I had to have say if there was a struggle with a union, I had to have the company owner, I had to have the union, and then I would also get the communities aspect. Like if you could get all three, that was key. But I actually couldn't go to air without both sides of the story back in the day. And that's going back,
So important what you just said right there. So important what you said. Because the reason I'm highlighting this is because what you and I, as journalists, mainstream journalists, we're always taught, what we always practiced, that's done. It's gone. It's history. I mean, you're still getting it through mainstream media to some degree because they're all governed by like the Canadian Association of Journalists Code of Ethics and the radio. Well, it used to be RTNDA.
Yeah.
Now it's the radio. What is it? The Radio Digital Television News Director Association, which I used to be part of when I was in television. So code of ethics, you have to balance it out, and it's important.
And you get in trouble if you don't.
Right.
Like that's the thing is you actually you could lose your radio station license, or in fact, in our instance, if you had an error that happened, then you had to apply. So I feel like they were every 7 years, but you'd have to go down to like every 2 or 3 years. And that costs a lot of money. It's frowned upon. And there's different, penalties that come up, with different things. And we got in trouble. And I remember specifically one time being in the Kelowna radio station, and someone made a claim that was absolutely outrageous. And instantly lawyers were on the phone because they knew this was going to come back at them. And that's a part of not just radio, but journalism in general. For example, we couldn't say the word fresh. I can't say that go to Subway and get a fresh sandwich. This fish is fresh out of the lake or the ocean or flown fresh in. We weren't allowed to say those things because they were misleading. And now look at it with the AI and everything else, right?
Yes. So what you're getting online is not that.
Yeah.
You are getting a very elaborate mix of.
You're getting a paid promotion.
Yeah, agendas, right? Exactly. So you talk to Northern Perspective. I mean, I can tell you what I'm pretty sure what they really are, because that to me is not journalism. That is a political show.
Yeah.
And they've got a particular agenda. And they're not the only ones, and you get it on the other side too, right?
Sure. But I think they're great having these conversations. And for me, I haven't watched a lot of it, but they at least hit some of the hard topics in regards to some things.
Except that what these shows, those kinds of shows, though, don't always tell the truth. They exaggerate. They lie. They lie. Now, I'm not just saying Northern Perspective or any particular. It's happening everywhere.
Create drama.
Doesn't serve the people well, because people now can't tell what the truth is, because there's truth wrapped up with lies.
So for example, when someone creates havoc at a small local legion and creates a drama with the hopes of getting arrested and getting kicked out of there so they can get some point shares and clicks, like, whoa, right?
And then that extends to even guests that we have on now, because then these narratives get amplified. They get repeated, and people so our guest tonight, right? Dave, I'm like, why are you here? That was my first question. Like, why are you here? And in fact, I'm still wondering why he really came on, because at the end of the program, what did he say? We shouldn't be talking about this anymore. And yet he chose to come on the program to talk about it. So now I'm sitting here going, all right, that doesn't jive. So I don't mean to be paranoid, but I'm kind of like, so what is he really? Is he really just and I'm not trying to discredit him. I'm just saying, okay, that this goes on with just about everybody anymore. You can't tell what somebody's true motivations are. You can't tell where they're really coming from. I don't know if somebody's really coming to us from the left side of the political spectrum, or from the NDP or the Liberals, or maybe he's really a conservative and acting like a liberal because he wants to spread crap to discredit the people on his side. You just don't know. And so with Dave tonight, it was like, was he really kind of duped into giving all this money that was supposed to go for food, and then they just used it for other things, which is what you're saying kind of happened, and he wasn't really aware? Or was he, is he an activist? And he's down there. And then the other question for me is, again, he's down there in the States. Now it's basically he's a businessman doing business in the States. I don't really know what his business is. I don't know. I came into this thing kind of blind tonight.
I remember what he said. Shoot.
Yeah, he goes back and forth across the border. And I don't mean to speak out of turn. I'm just saying that because of the environment we're in, and I'm not trying to hit him or accuse him of anything, it leaves me a little bit paranoid because I never know if someone's genuine or if they're here for some alternative reason, or are they trying to hijack me or exploit me or take advantage of me, or is he here genuinely as a really nice guy? Did he really just want to buy somebody a sandwich, or was he was he involved in some sort of political activism? He's injected himself into something that is political, but to him, it's not political, but it's clearly political. And in the end, what's it all coming down to? They're still talking about the ostriches, and it still comes down to the narrative being spun up tonight on other programs, on other platforms, with other influencers still talking about it, trying to disrupt things, discredit the government, get people to lose trust in government and our institutions, and tear everything down, burn it all to the ground so that we become the 51st frickin' state. And now I've got a guy on the program tonight who has moved to the States, is sitting here talking about how wonderful the healthcare system is in Texas, to a guy, a real journalist, by the way, who has done, I went down and I did do a 5-part series on healthcare in Texas, comparing the US and Canadian healthcare systems. I did extensive work on that down there. I was down there for 2 or 3 weeks, as I recall, years ago, I know Texas. I have been through the Texas healthcare system myself, so I know exactly how the Texas healthcare system works. And as I'm listening to him, it isn't all roses, and it's not all, it's not all a bed of roses down there. It's not. If you don't have insurance, you're effed. If you have insurance, you get the best healthcare in the world. So it's, not really balanced, and I can talk extensively about it. I didn't get into with him tonight because that wasn't really supposed to be the topic, and yet there we went.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what's the real agenda for him?
Well, and I'll level with you.
I
reached out to him. I actually started to reach out, and I forgot to press send on the message. So then I sent it a couple days ago and just asked if he would be open to having a conversation. Because that's what I call these. And then he started watching your program last night. He was actually asking to get on it last night. And we obviously couldn't do that at the time because we had Randy on there from Edgewood. And so and I called you earlier saying, I don't know. He was very kind of closed off, and I figured he wouldn't admit how much money he gave. And I just wanted to see why he that's all my conversations have been. And I recognize, and I'm responsible for my actions. I recognize I get way more heated on your program when we're talking to people than when I do on my own. I think I hold myself very well, but I get super spirited when people say why can't someone who's, a senior female look after herself? And I'm like, well, there's 70 bloody people out there watching her get attacked. Right. So,
yeah. Well, I know where that's going too. See, all these things, they're issues. Castle law, gun rights, take care of you're responsible for your own safety. I know where those comments go, but that wasn't what we were supposed to be here talking about tonight. Yet we ended up there. I'm not saying he came in with an ulterior motive to talk about gun rights or anything, but there we went. Right. And so, I am a little bit paranoid when we bring in guests on and what's really the reason for all this stuff. And it keeps coming back to the same stuff, separatism, which ties into the 51st state stuff. And my God, if you can't see the connection between Dr. Oz and RFK Jr., involvement in the Ostrich Farm, 51st state, redacted, David Krayden, what he's saying, the comments that you end up with in the chat, and not just, well, the comments section, not the chat, but when I go to those accounts, you know what else I see there?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing.
You know what? These accounts are all empty. They're like fake people making
Yeah.
these comments about Canada. Like, I don't know, like they're really nobody. They're ghosts, right? No history on these accounts. When you click on who's making these comments about Canada, crapping all over the country on that
Well, and I think it's so
platform.
interesting. People always say there's bots, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't deny that there can be. I know I've been in the media selling industry, and I know that we have, you know, verified traffic, and we also have computer generated traffic,
Yeah.
and those are bots. And I know you can create AI and go through and say things. So I'm not, you know, naive to that.
Yeah.
But I also think one of the downfalls of social media is when you don't use your own name and you don't use your own picture, you can go and be a complete jerk store anywhere. And here, both you and I are, and others, using our own real names, pictures. I share about where I live and where I camp. And these other people, whether they're noting it on redacted, krayden or Daisy or Rude Dude Media or whoever else, and even on yours and my own, you know, how ballless is that? Like I still say, I'll happily have a conversation with a person offline. It doesn't have to be online. If you want it to be online, it can be, but let's have a conversation. That's the whole point of this. You can be really upset and not love Charlie Kirk, but the one thing he did, he had conversations with people that agreed with him and disagreed with him. So does Ben Shapiro. You know, I think it's really admirable, and I think we do need to still have these conversations, and that's why I credit you with bringing both sides of the table on. We don't have to agree, but you know, we can agree to disagree. And that, like, I say thank you again. And I've had, you know, 2 local Edgewood residents say today, like, please thank him, because he's the one who actually started digging into things and acknowledging the fact that some things were not correct. So from those people in Edgewood, and I'm sure they'll say it again tomorrow night, but thank you for, you know, doing what you do and having both sides of the conversation on. It's super important in this day and age.
Well, you know, I appreciate everything you've done. Honestly, I've gone over, I've taken a look at some of your material, and you're bringing both sides or all sides of the issue on, and you've been doing a lot of work for months now. So you're well versed. You've done the investigation. You've talked to all the players. So
well, and I have to say that it's way more than me too. There's a whole other Edgewood group, and there's a whole other, you know, exposed group, and they have all of the details. And I have to admit, after I kind of backed off of this last month, it was a big relief, but I have to admit, I'm not up to date with all the information. So I need to thank, you know, Bradley and a few others, and Evan, Liz, and others that I won't name, for sending me information so that I can share it. And I'll thank Rob, this one guy, for nothing, because he's just sending inappropriate stuff the whole time. But, you know, there is a whole entire community on TikTok that is watching this as well. And so I just want to do a shout out to all of them. And hopefully someone is making me a sandwich, because they said it sounds like I need a sandwich because I'm a little bit spicy tonight. So there we go.
And I guess just to kind of try to draw things to a close here, Dave was right about one thing. I do get emotional, especially when people lie.
Yeah.
Like, that's what gets me. I never went into this with a bias or an agenda toward or for or against the farm or the ostriches or anything. I really had no idea what the story was about when I started working on it, and I really didn't care. I didn't want to talk about it. But yeah, when I see people lying, that does upset me when it's heard. He talked about mental illness. The mental illness on display out of that farm was the result of the social media.
100%.
And so,
and I think also too, it's not just that social media does create unwell people. And I can admit to that I'm addicted to my phone, as I think everyone who's, you know, probably watching this on their phone or going to the bathroom with the phone right now. Right. And we have mental health issues. We have addiction issues. We have unhoused issues. But then you have all of this, and people get attached to it, and they want to be right. And the only way you're right about something is if you battle the people that are wrong. And like, that's where I don't want to battle people. I want to have conversations. I do get too spirited, I admit, on your program. I need to reel myself in because, some of the verbs I use, I'm sure people are rolling their eyes and my
No,
mother's going to give me crap about it, but
it's a different medium. It's and I'm still, learning and exploring with this, but it's not television, it's not radio,
yeah,
and there is place for editorializing. It's in long form like this. It's part of it
yeah,
because this is not the CBS Evening News in 1975,
right.
right?
With
It's
only men,
I'm not Walter
only
Cronkite.
men, with only men providing it with women in the background.
Yeah,
Right?
that's right. Yeah, I mean that's the way it was back then, right? But and maybe even Dave himself is suffering from some sort of manipulation because of the social media he's been subjected to about this farm, which is why he donated the money, which is why he's taken the position he's taken, right or wrong. But he's conditioned or he's been influenced by it. And you depending on how you look at it, you could say, well, and he admits that he was emotion. So what he was doing is being driven by emotion.
Right.
That's not reason. That's not facts. That's emotion
And
over
isn't
the
that
birds, right?
thing we've been saying the whole time, like your feelings don't matter. And I know that's such a redneck, right leaning thing,
Oh.
but when in court, your feelings only matter after the fact something else is proven, right? You can't change a law because of feelings. You change laws, rules, and regulations due to facts. And I
Yeah.
think this is just where we're at is, Bradley said it best, is like uncovering the truth and exposing it. There's nothing wrong about that. And
No,
that's
no.
what I believe we're doing here. So
Trying to anyway. And then the last thing is, he said, shouldn't be talking about the farm anymore. And I was, again, like even now, I was like, I don't really want to do any more on this stupid ostriches. I don't know if I want to put anything more on. But here I am again doing it because of redacted. I knew that this was going to be going on this month, bringing it back up, here we go again. So when you contacted me and said, you want to do some of this stuff, and I, okay, all right, we'll give these locals a voice, but by so doing, we're still drawing attention to the farm.
Yep.
So my question is, in closing tonight, do you think we should continue with any of this? Do you think that this serves the public for us to continue?
So I think it serves the folks in Edgewood. I do. And because we have new people willing to speak up and share their story, as long as they're good with it, I absolutely am good. If they are not, then I support that. And I have given people a way out. I do believe we may have 1 or 2 letters that you're going to be sent that they prefer that will be read anonymously. But yeah, I do. I think it's time for the fact that there's other sides to be heard. And now that the locals do have the courage to come up and speak up, I think it's valid. So I support that, but I also tell you that I am biased in this. My heart is with the folks in Edgewood as well as, the people in the surrounding area of the Arrow Lakes. And I realize that not everyone agrees with what we're doing on this side. And some of them wish this would all die. But at the same time, if someone's willing to speak up, I'm willing to support them in whatever way I can.
I'm looking in the chat here, and the Mavericks are saying, Lindy says, yes, continue. The truth has to come out. Cindy says, I agree with Angie. If someone wants to speak out, thumbs up. CBC Brown says, it's Edgewood today. It's your backyard garden tomorrow. Whatever that means. And Dragon says, I mean, exposing lies is a mission. Yeah. So at least a few of the people on the chat are like, yeah, keep going. I just don't want the platform hijacked. I don't want unintended consequences. I want to make sure that whatever we're doing here really does serve the public. especially right now, especially with Canada under threat, with the politics involved. There's just too much at stake to get it wrong. And so many are not just getting it wrong, they're doing it wrong intentionally. And that Dave is right. That gets me upset.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ponder this, and I guess we've made a commitment to bring these people on tomorrow, so we'll continue with that. I'm in constant review of my actions, for
That's fair.
which I will be held accountable, no doubt, and so I should be. So help me make the right decisions, folks. That's what I am asking. That's interactive media. We have a new song to close things off tonight, because I thought we really need to. Is this editorializing? We need to honor Donald Trump for taking the first steps toward authoritarian control over the entire Western Hemisphere by taking over all the countries that he wants to take over: Venezuela, Greenland, maybe Canada. So I'm not biased or anything as a Canadian, but I do have this song from Maverick and the News Brothers. Hang on, will I cue it up here, Angie? I'm going to play this. Stay around. I want to talk to you just briefly at the end of this thing. Okay. But the main reason we produced this here is because we noticed something really strange going on with Donald Trump. It's quite apparent that he's orange, right? But I've seen this weird change in his color. He's been slowly turning this shade of green. And I think he's maybe mutating into a nuclear Godzilla. Oh, no, sorry, Trumpzilla. See you guys back here tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the flip side.
Blast, forged in fire, storming the swamp, taking it higher.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.